However, the Stop Arming Terrorists Act could seem at that further as explicit U.S. policy, formally banning U.S. government funding for al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, or any of their allies. Since the Saudis aren't going to stop such funding, the bill would also aim to limit U.S. government support for them as well. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. UPI reports the Obama administration strongly believes missing American journalist Austin Tice is alive in Syria, according to Senator John Cornyn on Friday. Tice, a freelance journalist, disappeared while reporting in Syria on August 14, 2012, but Senator Cornyn of Texas said presidential envoy for hostage affairs James C. O'Brien has high confidence he is still alive. Tice remains the only American journalist still held captive in Syria, according to Reporters Without Borders, which launched a hashtag Free Austin Tice social media campaign, including an online petition which has gathered over 150,000 signatures. When you hear the word lobbyist, you probably think about greedy corporations, but not all lobbyists are the same. Some are fighting for the freedoms you hold dear. Liberty Lobby LLC is doing just that in New Hampshire. You can help by going to libertylobby.xyz, where your contribution will give us the tools we need to ensure that your voice is heard. The UK Guardian reports Edward Snowden has been the subject of several high-profile appeals this year, calling on Barack Obama to pardon the NSA whistleblower and allow him to return home to the U.S. Writers, intelligence experts, film stars, and tech tycoons have all joined the chorus. Now the most audacious display of support for Snowden is underway. Messages calling for his pardon were beamed on the outside of the wall of the Newseum, the Washington, D.C. institution devoted to freedom of speech and the press that stands less than 2 miles from the White House. The Saturday night event is a guerrilla action carried out without the knowledge or approval of the Newseum itself, though organizers of the stunt from the Pardon Snowden campaign are hoping they will be given a sympathetic reception. The campaign's director told The Guardian before the event, "We sincerely hope that the Newseum supports what we are doing as an affirmation of the significance of a free press." Almost 4,000 messages backing Snowden's decision to expose mass government surveillance of emails and phone calls have been gathered by the campaign from across the U.S. and around the world. The messages were being projected onto the 74-foot-high marble tablet that is attached to the facade of the Newseum and which has the words of the First Amendment carved into it. Written in 1791 as part of the Bill of Rights, it states, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances." Saturday's action in Washington comes at a critical time for Snowden, who remains in exile in Russia, where he has been granted asylum, having been charged in the U.S. for offenses under the Espionage Act. This has been FPP Radio News. Online at fppradio.com.
North, an extremely vocal opponent of gay marriage, drew fire during his 2010 re-election campaign for saying that the legalization of gay marriage would lead to man-horse marriages. In one instance, he told the New Haven Register, quote, "It's a slippery slope. If we allow two men to marry, what's next? Men marrying horses?" But yesterday, North found himself at the center of a media firestorm when the New York Times published photos of North on what appears to be romantic outings with a horse. Gathered during the Times' 2-month investigation, the pictures show North in almost a dozen locations with the same 3-year-old mare. A former aide discovered links to numerous horse-related sites, including phillyfreaks.com and hothindquarters.com on North's work computer. The Times is accusing North of using federal funds to pay for luxurious trips, including a 3-night stay at the high-end Sueños stables in Catalonia, Spain last month. North released a statement yesterday claiming he only spent time with the horse twice while conducting research for his anti-gay marriage project.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live. It is Free Talk Live, the live Sunday edition of the program. As always, we invite you to join us here, take control of the airwaves, bring up whatever's on your mind. Coming up, the privacy story that we promised you last night but never ended up getting even near to delivering on. So, and that's a good thing. That means y'all were participating and had a fun time last night. But I hope we'll get to it because it looks like Google and Amazon may be invading your privacy to a very large extent with some of their new products. And Daryl's got that story. By the way, with you in the studio tonight, you've got me, Ian.
Me, Johnny Ray.
And Daryl.
We're actually going to start out with a couple of guests here via Fiend Phone. Normally, folks connect on Skype, but we have the opportunity to use Fiend Phone tonight. So that's what we're doing.
Fiend Phone.
We've got Michael W. Dean and Derek Slopey on the line here. Hey, gentlemen.
Hey, how you doing?
Man, it's fantastic. It's a beautiful night here in Keene. 20-something degrees. How about where you are?
Oh, yeah, I forgot. You hate how are you doing on the radio.
Yeah. It's a waste of time usually.
We'll jump right into it.
Well, yeah, the reason I wanted to have you guys the reason I wanted to have you guys on the show was because .BIP or Bipcoin has I think you guys have you're taking this thing to the next level. I mean, you'd called about it previously, and it sounded like it was a joke at first, like Bipcoin, not Bitcoin. And ultimately, my big question to you, Michael, was, well, what makes this different from all the other wannabe Bitcoins out there, the hundreds and hundreds of these, what they call altcoins. For our listeners that don't know, Bitcoin is a decentralized cryptocurrency. It is not issued by a government or a bank. It took off over the last several years, came out back in 2009, and it's really become the international currency. It's amazing. But there's all these kind of Me Too currencies out there that try to do something slightly different from Bitcoin, and then they market themselves as the next greatest thing.
But there's not a lot of the altcoins that can claim to have done something that Bitcoin was able to do without trying. Bitcoin at one time, and I'm sure Michael will go into details on this, at one time Bitcoin tried to die and people would not let it.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. What was that story?
When we first started it, our team was basically one guy who's a good programmer but doesn't know anything about cryptocurrencies and, did the kind of Me Too, change the code, how I asked him to of another coin. And we're not a Bitcoin wannabe. We're a Monero wannabe, if anything.
Right. So you're based on CryptoNote, which is a completely different, whereas like almost probably 95% of the other altcoins are based on the Bitcoin original code. You guys based on what's called CryptoNote, which is an anonymous system, supposedly anonymous system for transmitting money on the internet, something that Bitcoin, I think some people wanted it to be, but it never really was because it's basically a public ledger with Bitcoin. But this CryptoNote's a completely different system written from the ground up, not based on the Bitcoin code. And there aren't as many CryptoNote Me Too's out there, but Monero's sort of the big player in CryptoNote. And so anyway, go ahead. So you had one programmer in the beginning.
Yeah, actually, real quick to interject, I actually know a guy who's disabled and can't work who told me recently that he basically made enough money day trading with Monero that he never has to work again.
Nice.
And so now he kind of day trades as a hobby, and he's doing it with Bitcoin because he thinks that's the next one that's going to have that kind of rise in price. Because Monero went overnight from like $1 to like $15 or something.
It was not quite overnight, but yeah, over a period of like 3 weeks, it shot up because some of the black markets and the dark web started to accept Monero as a currency, and that's arguably what shot up the price.
Yeah, and Monero's doing several $1 million a day. I mean, you cannot track who is doing what with CryptoNote coins because it creates a new address for every transaction, which is why the addresses are like 95 to 98 characters long instead of like 32, right around there,
right,
for Bitcoin. But yeah, you cannot track like this address sent to this address, this amount, because it creates a new one for each transaction and kind of fudges the amount. It's cool. It's kind of like, what Dark Wallet was supposed to do for Bitcoin is built in to CryptoNote. It's got a built-in mixing service for all the CryptoNote coins. So the guy that first helped me make this, this is my idea. I came up with the branding, the name, and it's not named after Bitcoin. It's named after the BIPCOT no government license,
right,
which Daryl Perry actually had a little hand in, a little bit of his big hand in the original genesis of figuring out what it was going to be. So it's named after my cat, BipCat, which is named after the BipCat no government license. And this is the first cryptocurrency that is licensed under the BipCat no government license, which allows reuse and use by anyone except governments or government agencies.
Right.
And really all cryptocurrencies should be, licensed with that. And I hope that one day they will. I hope that catches on. Regardless of it.
So in the early days, you said you had this one programmer. You're not talking about Derek, who's on with us right now.
No. I'm talking about a guy named Brian, who's a great guy, Liberty guy, but he does programming for avionics. He does the software that goes into like private jets and things like that. So he didn't really know much. He didn't know much about even Bitcoin, let alone CryptoNode coins, which Derek Slopey has said, Derek understands Bitcoin very well. He's been studying it for years, but when he first saw CryptoNode, it was like he was a good doctor and then suddenly encountered an alien virus from space. It's that different.
It's very different.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But, we're all getting up to speed on it as we're going.
Okay.
There's a lot of similarities. It
the guy
still has a blockchain, and
Yeah.
You still sign transactions. I mean, there are some similarities, but it's really a from scratch.
So,
code
Derek,
base
when did you
almost.
get on board with the Bitcoin? Was it after it relaunched, or came back from the dead, or whatever, or before?
I was involved during the initial after they had
barely
named it
involved.
and started. Yeah, barely involved. Yeah, I was just talking with Michael and Brian about it.
All right. So what happened, Michael? How did it end up dying and coming back?
Okay, so there were so many problems with it transacting. Like he didn't really know how to morph it correctly, and from the original code, and used an older code base and forgot to carry the one and things like that, something like that. But basically, so we had a sort of working coin, but like transactions would take 4 days. Sometimes never go through, getting lots of error messages. So this guy named SLB, who lives in Eastern Europe, that's all I know of his name. He's a great guy, as far as I know, who's a genius with CryptoNote coins, fixed it for us, and now he's a part of the team. He writes like one-word answers to everything, though. Like he's hard to communicate with, but he fixed it, brought it back from the dead. Same blockchain. So this is kind of cool. So people who mined initially didn't lose what they mined, although a few people had thrown it away. And I actually gave some people some of mine, to help make up for that, even though I didn't have to, because we killed it for a month. We just said, it's gone, shut down everything. Sorry, it was a fun experiment. And then about a month later, I was like, I wonder, I'm going to delete this software, but I'm going to open it up one more time just to see, because it was fun. So I opened it up and I could see people were still mining and still transacting on it, even though we'd killed the seed nodes. So, because the way that cryptocurrencies work, especially with these CryptoNote ones, is like they cache transaction IPs as nodes and in a database. So like anybody you've communicated with, either connected with or transacted with previously, you can connect to if they're still together. And there were probably 3 or 4 people still running it.
So people were independently running the network absent your original node.
Without knowing it. They didn't know, like, I'm a node. I'm keeping the network alive. They were just like, hey, I'm mining and I'm getting, like, somebody out there has 100,000 Bitcoin. 1 or 2 or 3 people who I don't know have a bunch of, like, a fifth of the Bitcoin out there because they never shut it down, because they had faith in it.
So the fact that these other people were out there still moving this thing ahead gave you kind of the re-inspiration, plus this other dude came in to fix the problem.
Yeah.
You said, all right, well, maybe this is a thing. Maybe we should actually try to keep this thing alive. It wasn't really a joke anymore.
It's Skynet. It couldn't die. Yeah, originally it was kind of like jokey, kind of like the
Dogecoin.
The dark coin, Dogecoin, but now it's more than that.
All right, I want to hear more about, because that was my critique was, why is this different? Okay, it's got the BipCat no gov license, but is that really enough to separate it? And now you guys have a plan on the horizon. You've got an Indiegogo campaign you're putting together that I think is going to really add a killer feature to Bitcoin. That's one of the things I want to talk about coming up here in moments with Michael W. Dean and Derek Slopey from Bipcoin, BIPcoin.org. More coming up on Free Talk Live.
Think you're fat? You might just be bloated. Find out by calling now for a free trial of New Biotics, the new breakthrough that flattens bloated bellies fast. For a free trial, call 1-800-967-9298. Strict limit of 1 per household.
I used to be plagued by pot belly and constant bloating. After taking New Biotics, my belly flattened and continues to get flatter. My sense of bloating and discomfort is gone.
If you've got a big belly, you might not be fat. You might just be bloated. New Biotics is scientifically formulated with natural ingredients to flatten bloated bellies fast by cleansing pounds of rotting food and toxic sludge from your body. It even combats periodic heartburn and acid reflux. If your belly flattening results are too dramatic, simply reduce use to every other day. Think you might be bloated? See how much flatter New Biotics makes your belly. But hurry, call now for details while we're still giving it away for free. 1-800-967-9298. That's 1-800-967-9298. 1-800-967-9298.
Winter has just begun, and are you already tired of being cold? How would you like to never be cold again? This is Dale with Fortress Clothing, and I'm here to tell you, you will never be cold again with Fortress. If you're tired of freezing your butt off, elk hunting, sitting in a tree stand, deer hunting, winter camping, fishing, ice fishing, no longer fear the cold. If you snowmobile, ski, snowboard, get Fortress. Sledding with the kids, shoveling the walks, shopping, or if you or your spouse get cold feet at home, get Fortress. If you're stuck outside working in the cold or find yourself in an emergency situation, get our winter bug out bag and you will never be cold again. Fortress is the answer, so quit complaining and go to fortressclothing.com. It's a mid-layer garment that goes with anything you want to wear. Enter coupon code RADIO and get 20% off any item. Go now while we still have inventory. fortressclothing.com.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
This Your Family Today tip is brought to you by Boost Kid Essentials Nutritionally Complete Drink, providing your picky eater with essential nutrition and great taste in one drink. Visit us at kidessentials.com. To make sure your kids eat healthy, follow the 5-a-day plan. Serve 3 servings of vegetables and 2 servings of fruit daily. Remember, a serving could just mean a piece of fruit or a half cup of veggies. If your kids are picky eaters, ask a nutritionist about other sources. For more tips like these, visit us at parenthood.com/yourfamilytoday.
Do you love Twitter? Make sure you favorite the LRN.FM Twitter account so you can receive our tweets at twitter.lrn.fm. That's twitter.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. You're invited to join us here. The toll-free number, by the way, 855-450-FREE. We're talking the world of cryptocurrencies. Competitors to Bitcoin. Bitcoin may be the #1 top dog out there, but there are some other ones worth talking about that some of them do unique stuff that you don't find with Bitcoin, and that's what we're covering tonight is BIPcoin, BIP coin. Started initially as a joke, and I didn't take it very seriously in its initial phase as a result of that. But now it's starting to mature into something that I think is pretty exciting. We're going to continue that discussion with its founder, Michael W. Dean, from the Freedom Fiends. We didn't mention that. He's a host of his own liberty-friendly talk show that you can hear on LRN.FM on overnights during the week from 1 to 3 a.m. But also, I want to let you know about how to start up your own website. Maybe you've been thinking about doing this or launching a blog in the new year. Or maybe you already have a website and you want to move it to a new host because you're tired of the one you've got. HostGator is one of the top hosting companies out there, and they've got a special offer for Free Talk Live listeners like you. You go to HostGator.com/FTL, and you'll get 50% off of their regular hosting prices. Make it easy, by the way, over there. They've got a one-click, easy installation for WordPress, 24/7 over the phone or live chat tech support, and a very intuitive and user-friendly control panel that puts the power of creation into your hands. You've got a 99.99% uptime rating, and you get it all for 50% off their regular prices by going to HostGator.com/FTL. That's HostGator.com/FTL, like Free Talk Live. As we've got Michael W. Dean and programmer Derek Slopey with us here talking about the new BIPcoin, which is related to the BIPCOT no government license. That's another kind of discussion. But so we were talking about kind of the history of Bitcoin, how it started up, and it was, kind of a joke, and some people came on board to mine it and have a little bit of fun with it. Ultimately, you decided to pull the plug on it at one point, but the network, the people who were supporting it, they wanted to keep going, and that kind of breathed some new life into the project. Gave you the idea that maybe you should keep at this thing, and so y'all came up with a new idea for Bitcoin, which is related to decentralized DNS. Now, Derek, can you describe what that is for somebody who doesn't know what DNS is? I mean, keep in mind our listeners are, a lot of them are general audience radio listeners. They may not have any idea what, the basics of internet construction are here. So try to make it as understandable as you can.
I'll give it a shot. So DNS is kind of like the telephone book where you have a name for a website like LRN.FM, and it turn it into an internet address so that you can go to it.
It turns it into numbers to an IP address.
The IP address is kind of the numbers that you use to connect to that website or whatever. And that's a centralized system pretty much. It's run by a consortium, or I'm not sure what you'd call it, called ICANN.
The government.
Right. Now, didn't the U.S. government just recently release some level of control over DNS to ICANN? Wasn't there some headline about that?
There was some level of something that was handed over, but there are still DNS services that are lower than ICANN that are centralized. Remember, what was it, back in October? There was the thing where, like Twitter and Netflix and a bunch of websites went down because there was that DDoS on Dyn, which is a DNS routing company that's headquartered in Manchester.
ICANN is the...
Right, so
I was just going to say, this is Johnny Ray. I'm sorry to interrupt you guys. I was going to say that ICANN is the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers.
Correct.
It is a nonprofit organization.
And for a long time, the federal government has successfully taken over domain names of websites that they didn't like piracy websites. Yeah.
They still can. Oh, it's not just piracy websites. And my nickname for ICANN is I can take away your website because I'm the government. And they can, and they do. They can remove, it's basically like a bureaucrat in a corner office, or the guy in the office next to him, who has a little power in a 3-letter government agency, can destroy your life's work by taking away your website without due process and without much recourse. And they do it for, like kiddie porn, and they do it for, things that are, everyone can agree that's bad, but they also, and then they do it for knockoff handbags.
Yeah, that's
but
one
they're
of the
also
things.
doing it more and more for speech they don't like. And that's gonna probably ramp up under Trump, who has promised on the campaign trail to punish journalists who say things he doesn't like.
Right, and if they pull your... Go ahead, Dirk. Sorry.
It's ramping up already with the whole fake news thing, which seems to be becoming a buzz.
So what are you going to do with Bitcoin, or what is the plan here? Because you guys have an Indiegogo campaign, Derek. What inspired you here to do what's called a decentralized DNS, taking control of this phone book out of the hands of ICANN and the governments?
Well, me and Michael were involved in a previous project that involved Namecoin, and Namecoin was one of the first altcoin or fork of Bitcoin that wanted to bring DNS into the blockchain and decentralize the resolution of the names and numbers so that nobody could take away or shut down your domain. And Namecoin, for various reasons, didn't become very successful. And but me and Michael really had interest in finding a way to do this.
That's a really kind way of saying it. I'm going to start saying that instead of my explanation.
For various reasons.
You. Yes.
Yeah.
So you guys were you were interested in protecting people's websites from being attacked by the government, but Namecoin kind of was not as impressive as you'd hoped it would be as far as the development side was concerned.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of believe that it has some basic technical flaws, not necessarily flaws, but features that don't lead to mass adoption.
Well, it was a pain in the butt to set it up.
For a nice way of putting it.
I mean,
you didn't set it up.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pain in the butt to make it do anything at all. So
the wallet takes 10 minutes to open before it even starts syncing to the blockchain. That's all you need to know. And then I could give you 20 other reasons.
Yeah, and then there's just have to jump through obscure hoops just to try to get the domains registered, and then actually accessing them through that system was very hard. You guys tried to make that easier, but it was never a user friendly thing. Never anything the average website administrator was going to jump through. They weren't going to jump through those hoops. So you want to try to make that easier with Bitcoin?
Yeah, our previous project, Meowbit, tried to make that easier for Windows versions, but we were still limited by the underlying technical issues in Namecoin. So we'd like to be able to have a system under Bitcoin or .bip that allows people to use those names, use those domain names and resolve them outside of the ICANN system.
And would it be, because I remember back with the Meowbit that you talked about, which tried to interface with Namecoin, you had to like switch out your proxy information in a browser or something like that in order you couldn't access, if I'm remembering, I might not be remembering it correctly, but I felt like if I was going to go to the Namecoin sites, then I couldn't go to regular websites at the same time. So it's like you had to switch out one.
No, yeah, that would have been the manual way to do it. Okay. Meowbit resolved that problem. Allowed it to. If Meowbit was working and the Namecoin wallet was running on your computer, then all the names would resolve.
That's why the Meowbit thing never worked for me, because I was never running the Namecoin wallet.
Yeah. Hey, Derek, I know you've got to run, dude. Thank you for coming on Free Talk Live. We're going to keep Michael W.D. and we'll continue with what's going on with this Indiegogo fundraiser, because this has not yet been implemented. You guys are trying to fundraise to make these free speech protecting features happen, which is why I think that Bitcoin now all of a sudden is very interesting to me. Hey, thanks, Derek. Good having you, dude.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
More coming up with Michael W. Dean. You can call in too. It's Free Talk Live.
How confident are you in your food storage? If it was all you had to rely on, would it sustain your family? Hard times, good times, or any time, NuManna Storable Food is the proven superior choice. Learn for yourself what happened when one man ate only NuManna Storable Food for an entire month. Online at PowerPrepper.com. That's PowerPrepper.com. Experience the NuManna difference.
American-made food stores I love to eat. Yum!
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states.
Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
Money, power, and respect are all yours at CreditSuccessSecretsRevealed.com. Be seen as an industry leader. You can do it. The last application you filled out when it was time to hit submit did your nerves spike. You didn't get the approval you seek, but there's a better way. We teach you exactly what to place into the right systems the right way the first time so you get approved. Get up to $100,000 in instant business credit. Many people will get cash on the spot. Use those two tools in your new corporate credit engine so you can walk into the bank and get your project funded today. It's all about today at CreditSuccessSecretsRevealed.com. Credit Success Secrets Revealed is explosive and ignites instant results. Dial 1-800-707-8719. That's 1-800-707-8719. 1-800-707-8719. Or just go to CreditSuccessSecretsRevealed.com.
What do you shop for that you could otherwise buy at Amazon? Pretty much everything, right? Amazon has competitive pricing and they deliver, and that's a big plus. If you could plan ahead in your shopping, would you be interested in saving up to 33%? There's a catch. You have to do your shopping in Bitcoin. But imagine those savings. It's like a huge raise. All you have to do is go to saveatpurse.com. We've saved thousands, and you can too. Plan ahead and save. Saveatpurse.com.
LRN.FM is proud to announce our official listening apps for Android and iOS devices. Now you can easily tune into our streams anywhere, anytime on your smartphone or tablet. Just visit apps.lrn.fm or search for LRN.FM in the Android or Apple app stores. Please download, rate us 5 stars, then share the link on your social media and let your friends and family know how you're listening to LRN.FM. Download it now, free at apps.lrn.fm.
Understanding your credit score is the first step towards managing and improving it. This is Charlie Sundstrom with your Van Dyke Mortgage Minute. The most influential component of your credit score is your payment history. Almost equally as important is the amount you owe on credit accounts. Also impacting your score, but to a lesser degree, are the length of time you've utilized your credit, the number of new accounts, credit inquiries, and your various types of credit accounts. To help achieve or maintain a healthy credit score, have a system set up to assure your bills are always paid on time. Don't max out your cards. It's better to have a high credit limit with a low balance. Never close old accounts. The age of these can actually help your credit score. But don't be afraid to use your credit. You need several accounts in order to have a credit score. Just keep the corresponding payments within your means. For your mortgage pre-approval and refi needs, start by visiting VanDykeMortgage.com.
Corporate NMLS 3035. Van Dyke Mortgage is an equal housing lender. Charlie Sundstrom, NMLS 134251.
If you enjoy LRN.FM, please contribute to your favorite shows via their websites and become an amplifier at amp.lrn.fm. That's amp.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live Sunday edition of the program. Coming up here tonight, we'll talk about your privacy. Plus, Johnny Ray and I, we've got another chapter of Economics in One Lesson to talk about.
Daryl's not participating?
He is, semi.
I forgot to read a chapter, so I'll skim through it.
Good. All right.
So,
satisfied.
So we'll get into that coming up here when we get a chance. We're talking about the world of cryptocurrency right now. In fact, that reminds me, there was also a headline that this has been a very big week for Bitcoin as well, where it's hit its price, the highest price in like 3 years, basically. And so that's pretty exciting. We can talk more about that, too, if we get the chance. Your thoughts, if you want to join us here, are welcome. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. As we continue, we'll talk to Michael W. Dean further here about BIPcoin and why it's really, I think, taking it to a new level of importance. And so we'll talk about what's going to be happening here, hopefully, with your help. But first, I also want to let you know about a great gift opportunity for the holiday season or for any old time, and that would be Omaha Steaks, our brand new advertiser with Free Talk Live. And, you know, who doesn't like good food? I mean, these guys have some really great food, not just
curmudgeons.
Not just steaks, but they've also got seafood. They've got poultry, they've got veal, lamb, pork, veggies, desserts, appetizers, pasta, soup, seasoning, sauces, and more. If you're looking for the perfect gift, for only $49.99, you can get the My Family Gift Pack when you go to omahasteaks.com. Use code FTL in the search bar, and you're getting 77% off the regular price on that. Let me just break this down for you. 2 filet mignons, 2 top sirloins, 2 boneless pork chops, 4 boneless chicken breasts, 4 kielbasa sausages, 4 burgers, 12-ounce package of all beef meatballs, which were delicious, 4 potatoes au gratin, 4 caramel apple tartlets, and they had thrown a seasoning packet as well as 4 additional kielbasa sausages into that package. And they're offering you this awesome deal for less than $50. Just go to omahasteaks.com and enter code FTL in the search bar to get the special price, the family gift pack. It's a great starting kind of sampler, basically, of some of the stuff that they've got over there. And so far, of what we have tried, and I haven't tried everything because there's a lot there, of what we've tried, I've liked everything. It's all been excellent.
I'm probably cooking some of that kielbasa tomorrow.
Excellent. Hopefully I'll be able to sneak in on some of that. By the way, it's the most flavorful, tender-aged beef and it is aged for 21 days to unlock the full flavors of the cuts, then hand-trimmed and vacuum-sealed. The highest quality cuts and ingredients. Plus, they've got over 500 gourmet gift ideas. Omaha Steaks. Some of our listeners had already been Omaha Steaks customers, so they were obviously really excited to be able to now buy them and get Free Talk Live credit for it. Again, you use code FTL in the search bar as you're doing your holiday shopping, or maybe you just want to get some stuff for your own freezer. These are some really good products, so check them out at omahasteaks.com. And again, use code FTL in the search bars. We go back to Michael W. Dean. He's on the line via Fiend Phone. Which is proof of concept, Michael Dean, that you are a man of your word, that when you are running a fundraiser for some sort of technological wizardry, some new program or whatever, that you follow through. You created Fiend Phone, which is the audio method, this codec that we're using to talk to one another right now. That's why you sound crisp, you sound clean, you sound good, and that's a free program that anybody can download who wants to improve upon, let's say, Skype or Google Video. It sounds much, much better than either of those things.
Yep. And I've been involved in 5 Indiegogos. They've all used all the money for everything, exactly for what we said we'd use it for. And that's provable. We're a lot of Indiegogos and a lot of fundraising, especially in Liberty, where people raise money for, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And then it's like, where'd the money go? Oh, my roommates took it or whatever. Or, but we, you can go look at any Indiegogo I've done, and you can see that every single one of them, we've done what we said we'd do with the money because, there are things that are out in the world like Libertarians Against Humanity, Volume 1, and Fiend Phone, and, Meowbit and Free Speech Me, and raising money to get Ben Stone to PorcFest a few years ago.
So, yeah, as I was saying, proof of concept that, when you say you're going to do a fundraiser, you follow through with the concept here. And so what you've proposed is to add into Bitcoin, which is your alternative to Monero, which is an alternative to Bitcoin. It's an anonymous cryptocurrency. You want to add in this decentralized DNS that we were talking with your programmer Derek Slopey about, which would help protect people's websites from being taken down by the federal government or any governments from around the world by decentralizing the domain name system.
Right. It would not decentralize the server. So if the
Correct.
feds came in and took the server, the website would be gone.
But they wouldn't get the URL.
But if the feds just seized, like say thepiratebay.com, which they've done numerous times and various other versions of that, if you had say piratebay.bip, the .bip would still work.
Exactly. So that's the proposal, right, Michael Dean, to make that easier for people to implement than it had been done in the past with things like Namecoin.
Yeah, which leads to adoption. And by the way, people do play games of cat and mouse with moving their server around like the way that the Pirate Bay does, but also .bip over Bitcoin, which you can read about by going to bipcoin.org. That's Bravo India Papa Coin.org. The first page there, you've got the white paper, which is, if you've never read a white paper, that's like a technical paper of how something's going to be implemented. Ours is less technical and far more fun than any white paper anyone I know has ever seen. Everyone loves it, and it's a good read over coffee in the morning.
Cool.
But yeah, we're the thing that we're trying to do too would also be able to be used to make human rememberable addresses for Tor sites or for any function, anything, any location on the internet.
One of the technical questions Daryl had, he had me make a note here, Michael, and I know that Derek, your programmer, is not on with us at the moment because he had to go, but you might be able to answer this. In the past, with Namecoin, you had to have the Namecoin wallet software running in order to resolve the domain names through their system. Is that going to be the case with the Bitcoin when the job is done? Will people need to have that in order to access? They need the wallet, I guess, software in order to be able to access those websites.
No, and by the way, Derek had to go run off to check on his kids, which is one reason we're raising money for this. Like, we probably have the technical prowess to get this done, but we need to get it done quickly and start getting adoption before the next round of seizing of web properties
before Trump
happening.
gets sworn in would be nice.
Yeah, really. I mean, we need to hire a couple other programmers who don't have kids, or we can pay to get a babysitter for their kids. So
we're going to make the internet great again.
Yeah, we're going to make the internet great. Well, really, what we're trying to do basically delivers on what was the common promise of the internet early on, like early World Wide Web, and even before that with news groups and things, of like, this is free, this will, I remember hearing in 94, 95, the web enables anyone to have their stuff as visible as the New York Times, which is true and has always been true, except when they're taken down. But that's another thing too. This kind of levels the playing field, so to speak. So it's harder for, it's kind of like, I hate the word net neutrality because it stands for something that's very not. It's really the opposite. It's a government land grab on property, but this would more enable actual true net neutrality.
It's exciting. It changed me from a skeptic into a believer in Bitcoin. I had thought, okay,
you're mining.
Yeah, I'm actually
mining,
mining.
And you donated.
Yep, I did. I donated on behalf of the Shire Free Church to this Indiegogo, which, how long has this thing been running, Michael Dean, this Indiegogo? Because there's only a month left.
About 2 weeks, and it's going for a total of 2 months.
All right, you guys are trying to shoot for $175,000. Only a few hundred have been donated thus far, so it needs some serious attention. It needs some major shares. It needs some help. People need to go to bipcoin.org, bipcoin.org, and it's in the first blog post there. There's a link to the Indiegogo campaign. We'll talk a little bit more about that coming up here. I take it you can stick with us, Michael Dean?
Yep.
All right,
yep.
Toll-free number if you've got questions, by the way, 855-450-FREE. This is the live Sunday edition of Free Talk Live.
A funny thing happens when you don't advertise. Nothing. Modern advertisers have been trained to look for trackability in their advertising, and web search ads are great for that. They also help you get the consumer that's looking for products like yours in the moment. But they're expensive, and they do nothing to convince people to try your product segment in the first place. If you're a local advertiser, contact this station. If you can use national exposure, Free Talk Live's on more than 150 stations, and we can help advertisers with little budgets and big ones. Send me an email, mark@freetalklive.com. It's mark@freetalklive.com.
You've said it yourself. We need a healthcare system that focuses on health, not sickness. Health insurance pays for treating sickness but gives you nothing for being healthy. There's a free market healthcare company that gives you freedom from health insurance. They give you a proactive health assessment daily, no charge 24-hour access to doctors. Check them out right now at healthexcellenceselect.com. Any kind of doctor, traditional, integrative, chiropractic, acupuncture, and massage. You'll love the service and price. healthexcellenceselect.com. healthexcellenceselect.com.
Are you feeling embarrassed or stuck because you can't focus or concentrate? I have a confession to make. I spent years unable to think clearly, like I was in a fog. I was going through the motions, running my companies, and I hated feeling mentally sluggish. I couldn't get ahead like this. It's no secret. The powers that be want us dumbed down. Chemicals, fluoride. Our brains are under siege, and we are experiencing lower IQs. But now there is a weapon to fight back and win. Introducing DNA Evolve, a revolutionary breakthrough in a category of cognitive enhancers called nootropics. I've been using DNA Evolve and couldn't feel better. For me, it works. It feels great to get things done again and get ahead. Try a free sample for yourself at DNAEvolveSample.com. That's DNAEvolveSample.com. Supplies are limited, so go to DNAEvolveSample.com right now.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeen.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeen.com. You may already know about the Free Talk Live audio-on-demand phone line at 641-793-9660. Did you know that not only can you listen to Free Talk Live via your phone, you can also leave a message and have it delivered to Free Talk Live's hosts? To leave us your thoughts, just dial 641-793-9660. That's 641-793-9660. Press 2 for Free Talk Live, and then hit 0 to leave your message.
This is your Roberts & Roberts Brokerage Daily Precious Metals Update. In early trading Friday, gold is $3 lower at $1,167 per ounce, and silver is 6 cents higher at $17.10 per ounce. Bitcoin is currently trading at $771 US. Consider giving the gift of silver. It never wears out, always has value, and they will always remember who gave it to them. For a variety of options, call Roberts & Roberts Brokerage at 800-874-9760 or visit us online at rrbi.co.
You can put the Liberty Radio Network on the air in your area. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how. Broadcast.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. You can join us. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We've been discussing cryptocurrencies, not just Bitcoin, the world's most popular cryptocurrency by a long shot, but some of the unusual ones, the ones you may never have heard of. Now, if you're a longtime listener of the show, or at least if you've listened for the last year, you probably have heard about BIPcoin, B-I-P coin, because Michael W. Dean had called in to talk about it previously, and I was less than interested, I'll say that, initially, because it really didn't seem to be doing that much differently from the various other coins out there. But now things have changed, and there's new life being breathed into Bitcoin. It actually had died for a moment, and the people on the network had had kept it alive. And now you're back behind it, Michael, with a new plan to add in new features that will help protect free speech on the internet. Of course, as a talk show host, I'm a big supporter of free speech, so naturally I had to give a donation to the Indiegogo fundraiser that is going on right now. Folks can go to BIPcoin, bipcoin.org. The first blog post there, there's a link in there to said Indiegogo, and it definitely needs some help. It needs people sharing this thing out. So, of course, I just shared the Indiegogo link directly on our Facebook and Twitter over at Free Talk Live. But some of the things that have changed that I think are starting to set Bitcoin apart from the competition are, number one, you guys have a GUI. You have a graphical user interface wallet for this currency, which Monero still does not have. Now, Monero is the premier kind of anonymous currency. There are a few different anonymous competitors out there. There's Monero, there's Dash, and then there's now Zcash and various different ripoffs of those three. But those three are the top dominant, anonymous, decentralized kind of competitors to Bitcoin. And Monero being, I would say, the top of them because it was adopted by the darknet marketplaces. But without a GUI wallet, without a GUI wallet, it's hard to get mass adoption of something like that. It's just people don't want to use command line. I'm sorry. We've had GUI interfaces for operating systems since the early 1990s or late 80s, and command lines have kind of died off.
Right, GUI, and that's how I generally hear GUI pronounced. Most people are used to things that have a GUI, and they probably don't even think of it as a GUI.
Right. So
and they think of command line interfaces, stuff that like brilliant hackers do on TV, where you see them typing real fast on white text and red text and blue text on a black screen.
And you guys have that with Bitcoin. So anyone that prefers a command line interface, you've got that. But you've got that GUI. You've got the GUI for people to actually just install and use and not have to worry about memorizing commands and, all this just nonsense. So so that's something that sets you apart from Monero. That I think is very important. And you guys are go ahead.
Well, while we're talking about the graphical user face, it was really, a GUI that took the internet from being just something that a bunch of nerds use.
Yeah, that's true.
To something that everybody can use.
To taking the web from text to pictures.
Oh, you've got to type this in your command line, or you've got to know all of these commands and codes. To here's this thing called a web browser. A web browser is a GUI.
Exactly. So, and then also, y'all finally got listed on an exchange, which is definitely
Cryptopia.
Yeah, that's it's a website that allows you to take one type of cryptocurrency, say Bitcoin, and then trade with other people who might have Bitcoin and want to exchange it for Bitcoin. So that's actually what I did today. Was I took the Zcash that I had mined, which is one of the new anonymous CryptoNote-based currencies, I believe. Maybe it's not CryptoNote. I don't know if Zcash is. Do you know, Michael, if Zcash is CryptoNote?
It's its own little tree that's inspired by CryptoNote.
Okay. So Zcash came out
by default.
It was this big to do about this new crypto, this anonymous thing. The price fell off a cliff as I expected it to.
I actually heard something about that. I heard something from one of the people that works on Zcash. Mm-hmm. Brian Sovereign actually had one of the people on. I forget if it was one of his main episodes of Sovereign Tech or if it was a patron only thing. Mm-hmm. But he asked about the price, and the explanation was that when they got listed, people that had had a little bit of Zcash, they're like, okay, I'm going to ask this huge amount of money.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that anybody had bought any at that price.
No, some did. They were trading at over $1,000.
Here's how those exchanges work. When a coin is first released, when it's first listed on an exchange, if one person goes on there and makes one trade at whatever price, that sets the public price for it.
Right. Somebody was paying for a fraction of a Zcash, because nobody had a full Zcash in the beginning. So fractions of Zcashes were trading at the full amount would have been like $1,500 in the very beginning, and then it just fell off a cliff. And the reason why it was doing it at such a high level is because there was so much buzz behind Zcash. Right. So there was a lot of people talking about it, and then now it's finally finding its level, which is closer to $50 rather than $1,500 after a month.
Yeah, I forget exactly what was said by the developer, but they were saying that there needs to really be some better way for things when they initially get listed on an exchange to where they do sort of find that equilibrium a lot sooner.
People need to understand it more. The problem is people don't understand that, and it's really easy when a coin first goes on an exchange for like 5 people to manipulate it and make it look really valuable. And people who don't know that, who are caught up in the fever, go on the exchange and buy it. And the reason the reason you can't do that with Bitcoin is because the last transaction is always such a fraction of a second ago, and there's so many people doing it. The market really sets a kind of real price. And even Bitcoin is kind of to that point now of there's not that much trading, but there's enough that it has kind of a market-based price rather than I think it was 6 cents the day it came out, and now it's generally between half a cent and 2 cents. The other day it was 7. Daryl reads the price every morning with every top of the hour news, which is cool. But thank you.
Yes, so I went. I took my 0.06 Zcash that took me over a month to mine and exchanged all of it into Bitcoin today. So I got like 300 Bitcoin out of that.
Nice.
Yeah, and I did that on the exchange, which was great. So you guys you've got the exchange, you've got the GUI interface, and now you want to add this new decentralized DNS. I think this thing's going somewhere. At least I hope it does. I hope you guys can raise at least a fraction of what you're trying to. I mean, you're shooting for the moon here with $175,000.
Yeah, we're shooting for the moon, and if we make all of that, we're going to hire 4 programmers to work full time, and this will be done in a month. If we make half that, we'll get it done with some other programmers. But if we make $10,000, $15,000, we'll maybe be able to get it done, but it's going to take so long that by then the internet will probably, not to put in fear, uncertainty, and doubt, but this needs to be done quick. And we also put it on the Indiegogo too. If we don't make anywhere near that, we're going to use it for promoting, for helping Bitcoin, but promoting the idea everywhere we can of read this white paper. Mm-hmm. Some other coin should do this that has more resources if we can't. Because I've basically solved all the problems that made Namecoin unadoptable. And a lot of people have read this who are like, yeah, this looks like it could work, who know this kind of stuff.
Well, and they need to get on this Indiegogo now. Maybe the answers are in the white paper, but Johnny Ray, you had a question about the mining of Bitcoin?
I was looking at an article about Monero, and it said that the block time for Monero was 120 seconds, which is about a fifth.
And the block time is what?
It's the time it takes. I'm assuming. I'm pretty ignorant about technology of all kinds.
It's how often a new block is mined, but with all cryptocurrencies, it doesn't always. It's not. That's the target. It's the target amount, but.
Right.
Depending on if the hash rate of the network is increasing or decreasing, they adjust, and crypto note coins adjust more with that to try to kind of make it more equitable to not shut out the person mining on the home computer the way Bitcoin does.
And that's related to the block time, the equitable.
Yes.
I see.
Yes, like when the hash rate of the network, when more people are suddenly coming on, or somebody rents 10,000 hash per second, kilohash per second, and goes on there and starts mining, the hash rate goes way up. The network starts issuing blocks like every 10-20 seconds to kind of catch up for it, so one person can't scoop it all up.
So
and
people will be able to,
when it's doing the opposite, when it's slowing down hash rate, it's less than every 2 minutes that a new block is issued.
So to get behind this thing, go to Bitcoin, bipcoin.org. You can find the link to the Indiegogo in the first post there. And for people that are new to mining, there's a great step-by-step procedure there that you've written down, Michael W. Dean, to make it real easy for somebody who's a total noob to mining to get into this. Now, you don't have to do the mining to purchase or to hold Bitcoin, and you certainly don't have to go and donate to the Indiegogo. I think this is exciting. I wish you the best, and I hope to hear some updates with some good news. Michael, thanks for coming on tonight.
Thank you.
Yep, Michael W. Dean from the Freedom Fiends. Hour 2 is coming up on Free Talk Live. What do you shop for that you could otherwise buy at Amazon? Pretty much everything, right? Amazon has competitive pricing and they deliver, and that's a big plus. If you could plan ahead in your shopping, would you be interested in saving up to 33%? There's a catch. You have to do your shopping in Bitcoin. But imagine those savings. It's like a huge raise. All you have to do is go to saveatpurse.com. We've saved thousands, and you can too. Plan ahead and save. Saveatpurse.com.
You want disruption? You got disruption. Cell 411, the world's most disruptive and empowering app, knows you want ride sharing with payment options for cash, Bitcoin, silver, and barter, as well as credit cards. And they know you want more than promises. Cell 411 delivers. The same great emergency management app, now with ride sharing. Freedom to travel is a right. You don't need big business telling you how to do it and taking fees. Go to the App Store now and download Cell 411 and get riding.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and one with just the Edgington Post. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Keene, the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Sunday, December 11th, 2016. Silver is trading at $16.90 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,160 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at 0.8 cents, and the average price of Bitcoin is $773. Antiwar.com reports the Syrian rebels are on the brink of outright military defeat in Aleppo, and despite a good chunk of them being al-Qaeda fighters, the U.S. has branded them so heavily as moderate rebels that the loss is adding to the sense that the rebellion as such is a lost cause. While the Islamic State still has substantial territory, al-Qaeda and friends hold a shrinking amount of territory, and that territory is less and less relevant. It appears the factions are headed for the status of rural-based insurgency, but Saudi Arabia and their allies are expected to keep arming them. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and even Turkey have invested a lot of money in backing regime change in Syria, and even if regime change is out of reach, they don't appear to see an alternative but to double down and keep the fighting going in whatever form they can muster. That's less true of the U.S., however, with President-elect Donald Trump expected to shift away from arming the rebels outright and focus on fighting against the Islamic State, even potentially coordinating with Russia in that fight. The Saudis aren't going to go along with them, however. The Stop Arming Terrorists Act could see met that further as explicit U.S. policy, formally banning U.S. government funding for al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, or any of their allies. Since the Saudis aren't going to stop such funding, the bill would also aim to limit U.S. government support for them as well. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. UPI reports the Obama administration strongly believes missing American journalist Austin Tice is alive in Syria, according to Senator John Cornyn on Friday. Tice, a freelance journalist, disappeared while reporting in Syria on August 14, 2012, but Senator Cornyn of Texas said presidential envoy for hostage affairs James C. O'Brien has high confidence he is still alive. Tice remains the only American journalist still held captive in Syria, according to Reporters Without Borders, which launched a hashtag Free Austin Tice social media campaign, including an online petition which has gathered over 150,000 signatures. When you hear the word lobbyist, you probably think about greedy corporations, but not all lobbyists are the same. Some are fighting for the freedoms you hold dear. Liberty Lobby LLC is doing just that in New Hampshire. You can help by going to libertylobby.xyz, where your contribution will give us the tools we need to ensure that your voice is heard. The UK Guardian reports Edward Snowden has been the subject of several high-profile appeals this year, calling on Barack Obama to pardon the NSA whistleblower and allow him to return home to the U.S. Writers, intelligence experts, film stars, and tech tycoons have all joined the chorus. Now the most audacious display of support for Snowden is underway. Messages calling for his pardon were beamed on the outside of the wall of the Newseum, the Washington, D.C. institution devoted to freedom of speech and the press that stands less than 2 miles from the White House. The Saturday night event is a guerrilla action carried out without the knowledge or approval of the Newseum itself, though organizers of the stunt from the Pardon Snowden campaign are hoping they will be given a sympathetic reception. The campaign's director told The Guardian before the event, "We sincerely hope that the Newseum supports what we are doing as an affirmation of the significance of a free press." Almost 4,000 messages backing Snowden's decision to expose mass government surveillance of emails and phone calls have been gathered by the campaign from across the U.S. and around the world. The messages were being projected onto the 74-foot-high marble tablet that is attached to the facade of the Newseum and which has the words of the First Amendment carved into it. Written in 1791 as part of the Bill of Rights, it states, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances." Saturday's action in Washington comes at a critical time for Snowden, who remains in exile in Russia, where he has been granted asylum, having been charged in the U.S. for offenses under the Espionage Act. This has been FPP Radio News. Online at fppradio.com.
According to a new report released this week by the Pew Research Center, a rising number of weak, emasculated men are working as stay-at-home dads, with a steadily increasing number of feeble, pathetic fayboys choosing to spend their days cooking, cleaning, and performing other submissive duties.
Well, our findings indicate that more and more pussified half-men are not going to work, and instead are embarrassing themselves by purchasing groceries, packing children's lunches, and denying all aspects of their masculinity on a daily basis.
The Onion spoke to one of these effete, pathetic excuses for men to get his response on the new report.
I love being able to stay home with Angela. I mean, it's a lot of work, but I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
What a f***ing pussy. For more on this story, check this week's Onion Review.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. You are invited here, the live Sunday edition. You can take control of the airwaves and bring up anything that you want. With you in the studio, it's Ian,
Johnny Ray,
and Daryl.
Coming up, Johnny Ray and Daryl and I will talk about economics in one lesson. I believe chapter 7 is what we had to read in the last week, and we'll get into that. We've been doing kind of an ongoing book review, book club thing here, and you can follow along and read along with us because Economics in One Lesson is free to download in PDF form. So we'll talk more about that coming up here. Also, there is a story that we've been teasing for a couple nights here now, Daryl, about privacy. Yes. Specifically the invasion of it by companies like Google and Amazon with some of their newest products that they're pushing out heavily, like this Amazon Echo, a device that you physically place in your home that you can tell to do certain things, sort of like Apple's Siri, for instance, where you can command it to do things for you.
I think the Amazon Echo has more capabilities.
Is that right?
Than Siri.
Okay. I know it can order things on Amazon for you. But it can also, do searches and things like that? I've never really looked into
Siri will do searches for you, but Siri cannot place an order on Amazon for you.
Right.
And Google has their own version called Google Home. And the story here comes from Wired. They say if you have one of these, an Amazon Echo or a Google Home voice assistant, welcome to a life of luxurious convenience. You'll be asking for the weather, the news, and your favorite song without having to poke around on your phone.
So it's like what you've seen in a million movies over the years, right? Where, like Star Trek, where they talk to the voice in the ceiling or wherever it's coming from in the ship, right? Asking the ship to do certain things.
Earl Grey.
Yeah, this is the equivalent of that.
Right.
Computer.
Yes.
Earl Grey.
You'll be turning off lights and requesting videos from bed. The world is yours. But you know what? That little talking cylinder is always listening.
Mm-hmm.
And not just listening, but recording and saving many of the things you say.
Uh-oh.
Should you freak out? Not if you're comfortable with Google and Amazon logging your normal web activity, which they've been doing for years. Hell, many other sites have done it for years as well. Echo and Home simply continue the trend of saving a crumb trail of queries, except with snippets of your voice.
Right.
However, it's still a reasonable concern for anyone worried about privacy. If you only use Chrome in incognito mode, put tape over your laptop camera, and worry about snoops sniffing your packets, a web-connected microphone in your home seems risky. It's a fair thing to be unsettled about, but recording your voice is a major part of how voice assistants work. Here's how devices like Echo and Home record your voice, why they do it, and what they do with the data, and how to scrub those recordings. How in-home voice assistants actually work. Whenever you make a voice request, Google Home and Alexa-enabled devices record or stream audio clips of what you say. Those files are sent to a server, the real brains of the operation. That then processes the audio.
So the little device isn't actually doing the crunching on the audio. It's just recording and sending a file to the server.
To the server that will process the audio and formulate the response. The recorded clips are associated to your user account, and that process is enabled by default.
Mm-hmm.
Because their brains are located miles away, Echo and Home need an internet connection to work. So that's something else that's different from Siri. I think Siri will work to some extent without an internet connection.
Really? Okay.
You could ask limited things of Siri.
You could ask it to look someone up on the phone book that you have.
Right.
And it wouldn't need an internet connection for that.
Siri, play my music.
Right, okay.
These devices do have a very rudimentary education, though. The only spoken commands they understand on their own are wake words or activation phrases like Alexa or OK Google. Once you say those magic words, the voice assistant jumps to life, captures your voice request, and slings it to their disembodied cloud brain over Wi-Fi. That means their mics are listening to you even when you're not requesting things from Alexa or Google.
Because they're listening for that phrase to activate them.
They say, but those ambient conversations, the things you say before saying Alexa or OK Google, are not stored or sent over a network.
Supposedly.
And this coming from Wired.
Yeah.
I'm guessing if there was any evidence that anything was being sent over the network.
These aren't open source programs. Wired doesn't just get to go into the code of Google and Amazon's software and look around. I mean, it's probably a simple matter for law enforcement to contact either of those companies and say, oh, well, we know that Mr. Perry has one of these Amazon Echo devices, and we'd like to listen inside the Nautilus, and just have them flip it on, and then just start recording absolutely everything that is said.
Right, but there would be a way to then see, oh, wow, there's a constant signal to this
You could
thing.
see that. I mean, yeah, if you were sniffing out the packets from your Wi-Fi, you could see that it was transmitting more than it normally does.
And if it's not transmitting anything before you say Alexa, then, like the Wi-Fi thing.
Sure, I understand. It's probably not doing that by default, but I'm telling you, they could turn that on if they wanted to, right? Like there could be code
and they're
in there.
talking about defaults here, Ian.
Right.
So I'm fairly certain that if by default it were sending things, Wired would have said, hey, by the way, this is sending things by default.
Right, just to be clear, I'm not saying it's doing that by default. But the fact is, there's a microphone in a Wi-Fi connected device. It wouldn't be hard for the government to demand they turn that microphone on and just start recording things.
Correct.
Yeah.
But
that's a possibility.
But the article here is about what the things do by default.
Yes, I get you.
So next they say, do they need to eavesdrop? Listening to what you say before a wake word is essential to the entire concept of wake words. The process borrows a page from the pre-buffer on many cameras' burst modes, which captures a few frames before you press the shutter button. This just does it with your voice. With a camera, the pre-buffer ensures you don't miss a shot due to a slow shutter finger. In the case of a voice assistant, audio pre-recording helps the system handle requests instantly. Without a perked ear for the Alexa, OK Google, or Siri, these assistants would need an activation button. In fact, if you're really freaked out about the concept of something always listening in your home, your best bet is to get a push-button voice assistant. Things like the Amazon Tap, the Alexa remote for Fire TV, or your phone with its always listening mode turned off. And now they say, can hackers tap in to listen to me? Nothing is impossible, but Amazon and Google both have security measures that prevent snoops from wiretapping your home. And
unless, of course, the snoop is Amazon or Google.
Or the NSA.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, something that they don't mention here, but they do say that the audio zipping from your home to Amazon and Google data centers is encrypted. So even if your home network is compromised, it's unlikely that the gadgets can be used as a listening device. A bigger risk is someone getting a hold of your Amazon or Google passwords and seeing a log of your interactions online. There are also simple measures that you can take to prevent Echo and Home from listening to you when you don't want them to. Each device has a physical mute button, which cuts off the mic completely.
Okay.
But what about Siri? Siri records your queries too, but she doesn't catalog them or provide access to the running list of requests. You can't listen to your history of Siri interactions in Apple's App Universe. While Apple logs and stores Siri queries, they're tied to a random string of numbers for each user instead of an Apple ID or an email address. Apple deletes the association between those queries and those numerical codes after 6 months. Your Amazon and Google history, on the other hand, stay there until you decide to delete them.
Interesting.
And Cortana, you've probably heard of.
That's the Windows version of
Microsoft,
Siri, right?
Microsoft's Cortana voice assistant.
Do you use these things? Do you use your voice assistant thing? I don't either. Johnny Ray?
No, I don't, but a lot of people do. I'm around people and they use theirs.
Yeah, I've never even really tried it.
I had a previous phone had the Samsung Galaxy, and I would just ask it random questions, but I would never use it for legitimate purpose.
Toll-free number tonight, 855-450-FREE, 855-450-3733. We're talking about your privacy. It's Free Talk Live.
For P150, P150GA, P150NY, P150OK, P150TN, C250A, C250E, C250Q. Not available in all states. If New York or Colorado, call for a similar offer.
What's the scariest thing about going to the dentist? Opening your mouth or opening your wallet? Because just a simple cleaning can cost $100, and things like root canals can cost you hundreds more. If you don't have dental insurance to help, call Physicians Mutual Insurance Company, 1-800-656-4686. This isn't a discount plan or preventive-only coverage. This is real dental insurance that helps pay for checkups right away. So you can call today and get your teeth cleaned tomorrow. Plus, it helps cover the more expensive procedures you might need down the road. Fillings, crowns, bridges, even costly dentures. There's no deductible and no annual maximum. Your acceptance is guaranteed for one of these insurance policies, even if you're retired. There are no networks, so you can choose any dentist you'd like. Call now for a free information kit with all the details. 1-800-656-4686. That's 1-800-656-4686. 1-800-656-4686.
Winter has just begun, and are you already tired of being cold? How would you like to never be cold again? This is Dale with Fortress Clothing, and I'm here to tell you, you will never be cold again with Fortress. If you're tired of freezing your butt off, elk hunting, sitting in a tree stand deer hunting, winter camping, fishing, ice fishing, no longer fear the cold. If you snowmobile, ski, snowboard, get Fortress. Sledding with the kids, shoveling the walks, shopping, or if you or your spouse get cold feet at home, get Fortress. If you're stuck outside working in the cold or find yourself in an emergency situation, get our winter bug-out bag and you will never be cold again. Fortress is the answer, so quit complaining and go to FortressClothing.com. It's a mid-layer garment that goes with anything you want to wear. Enter coupon code RADIO and get 20% off any item. Go now while we still have inventory. FortressClothing.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Teens radio show. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgoristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agorist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agorist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any tomfoolery. So go with AgoristHosting.com. And if you want to get your foot in the door with decentralized marketplaces, Agorist Hosting is now offering Open Bazaar hosting. Go to agoristhosting.com, click on the button that says Get Hosted. Agorist Hosting, that's AGORIST hosting.com.
DVD, books, music, instruments, periodicals, computers, software, electronics, photo, cell phones, office products, home and garden, bed and bath, furniture, kitchen, pet supplies, automotive, hardware, apparel, shoes, jewelry, grocery, healthcare, sports and outdoors, toys, games, used, and more. It's a department store at your fingertips. Shop.freetalklive.com. Get all your shopping done, get a great deal, and a portion of your purchase goes to benefit Free Talk Live when you enter Amazon via shop.freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
You can connect with the Liberty Radio Network via our Facebook page at facebook.lrn.fm. That's facebook.lrn.fm.
It is Free Talk Live. You can dial toll-free and join us here. The number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Kind of been focusing on technology so far tonight, discussing cryptocurrency in the first hour, and now your privacy, or the ever, reduced amount of privacy that you have, the more technology that it seems that you introduce into your life. Daryl, you've been sharing a story from Wired.com about some of these new devices that sit in your home, and Amazon's encouraging people to buy more than one of these things, the so-called Amazon Echo,
right,
to put it in different rooms of your house.
Right. You need one in your kitchen. That way, when you're in the kitchen, you can order stuff for the kitchen. You need one in your living room so it can control your smart TV and all of this other stuff. And you need to have one in every room.
And it's listening to you all the time. Now, one of the things I want to tell you about before we get back into that is MyPillow.com, where you can go and get MyPillow for basically virtually no risk. I mean,
it doesn't listen.
No, thankfully it does not. But you can put it in the washing machine as well, and the dryer, which is very unusual for a pillow, but it's designed for that. I've been using it for several months, and it is the best pillow that I've used. It's fantastic. If you don't agree, though, if you order this thing and you don't think it's the best pillow you've ever used, because you don't have to take my word for it, you've got the first 60 days to make the decision, and then if you don't want it, you can send it back to them within that 60-day window. So you do have to pay the shipping to send it back, but you'll get your money back if you do that. So they're standing behind their product, and they also stand behind it with a 10-year warranty on top of that. So you go to MyPillow.com, use code FTL like Free Talk Live. You'll get one pillow at half price, or you can get two for the price of one. It's your choice how many you order there with code FTL at MyPillow.com as we continue here. So, Daryl, you've been sharing with us this story from Wired.com.
Yes.
It's about privacy. We'll get right back into that here, but first, Sarah is on the line in Albuquerque. You're on Free Talk Live. Sarah, go ahead.
Yes, the Swiss Alps just finished a train line that goes through 35 miles of the Alps mountains.
The Swiss Alps,
so
okay.
So it is the longest tunnel route in the world. And I think 35 miles of it, 13 years, and maybe $26 billion, I was told.
My God, that's a lot of money.
Well, you know what? They're very proud of it. You know what I mean? Because the Europeans, they love public transportation. Like I said, they have magnetic levitation trains. Now they put the tunnel train the longest.
How come you don't move over there?
Glacier Express is what it's called.
How come you don't move over there, Sarah? It sounds like you'd fit right in. I mean, you've described yourself as a communist before here on Free Talk Live, and as I understand it, there's a lot of commies over there in Europe.
Right. I mean, France is pretty much communist because the French president came to the Fidel Castro's, funeral. He was one of the guests there. And France has free health care, socialized medicine. But
France doesn't have anything to do with the Swiss Alps, though, right?
Right. But you know what? As a communist, I love public transportation because it's available for everybody, and it's taking community money, and it's
so you love to steal money from people and fund public transportation projects.
So that all of us could use it.
But it's stealing.
From the poorest to the
that doesn't bother you. It doesn't bother you that you're stealing from people, as long as the ends are something you support.
Well, here's the thing. You know what? The way that you share and give and take care of other people.
What's the difference between sharing and stealing? There's a difference between sharing and stealing. When you share with somebody, you're voluntarily choosing out of your own goodwill to help somebody, to help an organization, to help an individual. You're sharing because you've chosen to do that. With the political system that you're advocating, communism, everyone is threatened with violence in order to contribute to the system, and that's not very nice. It's not nice to threaten people.
Well here's the thing. Is that, let's say if I get hit by a drunk driver, let's say I get into a drunk driving wreck and I become crippled, and I need to be hospitalized, but because I have no money, let's say they just let me bleed to death. Oh, she's broke. Her her family.
What kind of people do you deal with? I mean, most of the people I know are pretty compassionate and are willing to help their neighbors on a voluntary basis.
See, communists think that people don't have human compassion and don't want to do anything. That's why they need to steal money from people to pay for the things that they like.
Well, it's the government that steps in and takes care of these people in the United States, and if they can't walk, if they're in a wheelchair, they give them disability. Now, you could say that why is the government taking tax dollars from you guys and giving to that poor person? You know what I'm saying? But the thing about it is that it could happen to any of us. That's what you're saying.
But you're fear-mongering, Sarah. We know that bad things happen to people. That's just life. Bad things happen at some point to pretty much everybody. So what you're denying is that what you're suggesting is that without the government stealing money to give to people, that no one would help their fellow neighbor or their family members or their friends, and it's ridiculous.
Do you want to know what I did yesterday, Sarah? I gave money to the homeless shelter. I voluntarily did that. The government didn't need to steal my money to give to the homeless shelter because I gave that of my own free will.
I also give money to the same homeless shelter of my own free will because I support what they do. And Americans and people around the world have given billions and billions of dollars every year to countless causes because they support those things. Whether it's somebody who gets burned out of their home down the street from them, or somebody in a tsunami in Thailand, half a world away.
Right.
People are generous.
I was just going to say, every time there's a major natural disaster, Red Cross always raises hundreds of millions of dollars. There was one of the hurricanes or earthquakes or something a couple of years ago where they had to tell people, don't donate anymore. We have more money than we know what to do with.
So, but what is the difference between when you say you pay 1/4 of the taxes? They take it from you guys anyway, whether you like it or not, 1/4 of it. Okay, and you take that money for people that get involved, that gets ill, they have no money, they take care of them. Is that robbery?
It's robbery. Sarah, we've explained numerous times, no matter what good thing happens after somebody sticks a gun in your face and empties your wallet, it is still theft.
Yeah, if you don't consent, then it is a robbery. Thank you for the call, Sarah. Appreciate it. I don't know how many times you have to explain it to her before she'll even start to listen. I'm not sure. She's obviously not. I heard on Thursday night, Chris and Heather were really doing amazing work trying to communicate some of these ideas to her. I wasn't hearing the other side of the conversation because I was going back and forth doing stuff. But
same sort of thing. It's not theft because they do nice things.
Yeah,
no, it's still theft.
Yeah, it's not okay. And that's all we're really advocating here is to change from the status quo of stealing as the way to fund these things to just asking for help, just asking for support, to persuade people to support these various different community efforts.
And there's a very simple saying, I don't know who said it, but I think everybody should be able to agree with this. Good ideas don't require force.
Yep. The reason that politicians on the campaign trail will often talk about the glorious ways that they are going to redistribute wealth to the needy is because they know that will get traction with human beings who care about their neighbors.
Right, and we have that already. Right, they see the government as the way to do that. Oh, they're the biggest organization, so therefore they should be the ones helping people. The fact is they're inefficient and they spend poorly the money that they steal from people. If you let the private charities do it, they'll be much more efficient and can help more people for fewer dollars even. It's Free Talk Live, 855-450 free. Join us.
Don't know what contaminants are lurking in your water? Time to get a ProPure. Take advantage of ProPure's holiday sale. Save 25% on all ProPure water filter products. Sales good through December 31st. There's a ProPure water filter for you. Visit your authorized ProPure dealer for details or ProPureUSA.com. That's ProPureUSA.com.
If you or someone you care about loves outdoor adventure, then check out slingbow.com for some unique holiday gift ideas. That's slingbow.com, where we have some innovative new products for the archer, hunter, or bow fishing enthusiast in your family. Now through January, use the promo code HOLIDAY to get free shipping in the U.S. or Canada. And from all of us at Slingbow Industries, have a safe, joyous, and peaceful holiday season.
you heard about Bitcoin? Not Bitcoin, but Bipcoin. Bravo, India, Papa, Coin. Bipcoin is a new cryptocurrency that you can start mining today for free on ordinary computers. Unlike most altcoins, Bipcoin is not a clone of Bitcoin. Bipcoin is based on entirely new, more recent, and better code called CryptoNote. So unlike Bitcoin, Bipcoin has truly untraceable transactions, and we're working on adding distributed DNS functionality to Bipcoin. We're calling this .bip, and it will provide uncensorable domain names in an easy-to-use interface. Unlike previous systems attempting this, .bip will be simple for both the website owner and for people viewing websites. This will get it the worldwide adoption we need to keep speech free, and cyber squatting will not be a problem. Please help out with a donation or just share this with your friends. If you can't chip in some cash or Bitcoin to save free speech around the world, because there are incoming regimes that hate honest criticism. Go to bipcoin.org. Once again, that's Bravo, India, Papa, coin.org.
In Survivor Max 2, School Bites, Max must scavenge through a wasteland swarming with the undead. Desperate to find the medicine he needs, he discovers a community of survivors at his former school. Has he finally found the safe haven he's been looking for, or will he discover that school bites? Look for Survivor Max on Facebook, read reviews on Amazon, and read Chapter 1 at SurvivorMax.com.
The 3 most important things you can do for Free Talk Live are: 1. Share 1 episode a week on Facebook or in some other social networking site. 2. Buy the things you buy online through shop.freetalklive.com. 3. Give $5 a month to the AMP program. It's my firm belief that Free Talk Live's AMP program is the best use of your charitable dollar among liberty-oriented organizations. Support all the organizations you love, but make sure you give $5 a month to AMP at amp.freetalklive.com.
Attention CPAP users, stop the insanity and torture of your CPAP mask. Don't you hate the skin irritation and terrible leaks? Jump on the CPAP Pro train, invented by an actual CPAP user that became so frustrated with CPAP masks. Are you ready to try something new? With absolutely no straps or headgear? Go to nomask.com and get the best night's sleep ever. Free to Medicare patients. Go to nomask.com. That's NOMASK.com.
If your home has hard water, then it's likely that Limescale is clogging your pipes, damaging your appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars each year. You can eliminate Limescale in the entire house with HydroCare products available at Wave Home Solutions. Easy and efficient with no maintenance, no salts, no chemicals, and no coils. And you can buy with confidence from Wave Home Solutions. Performance guaranteed. Just go to bestwater411.com. That's bestwater411.com.
While our satellite channel is free to listen to, it's not free for us. You can help us cover our satellite costs with the chip-in on the right side of the page at lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. You can join us here, live Sunday edition. Toll-free number 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Tonight, you've got Ian,
Johnny Ray, and Daryl.
We've got Skype at Skype username LRN.FM. And if you want to try something different in the world of healthcare rather than the old, sort of the standard insurance method that the government's trying to shove down everyone's throat with Obamacare, there is another option. It's healthexcellenceselect.com. They describe as a free market healthcare company that can give you freedom from health insurance. They give you a proactive health assessment daily if you'd like, and no charge 24-hour access to doctors, plus a medical information card you can give to EMS, first responders, the emergency room, or whatever medical professional you want. You can go to healthexcellenceselect.com to learn more. Any kind of doctor, by the way, traditional, integrative, chiropractic, acupuncture, and massage. You'll love the service and the price. Go to healthexcellenceselect.com. That's healthexcellenceselect.com. More about your privacy and the potential invasion of it via these new devices from Amazon and Google. First, though, we go to your calls and thoughts. We'll go to Skype, actually, where I think David is on the line. Do we have David?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, under the heading of what I told you before, FBI Special Agent in Charge Tom McClenahan, head of the FBI in New Mexico that retired in, I think it was 2009, immediately upon retiring, made the public statement to a reporter that New Mexico is the most corrupt of all 50 states. and that corruption here permeates the government at all levels, and that has affected me in my fight for my children nonstop. What I wanted to head it with that. You were talking about privacy the other day. You were talking about searches. I want to share something that this kind of, it all ties together. There was a few days ago, a week ago, whatever. There was an ex-boyfriend laid in wait in his former girlfriend's home, and when she came home with her 3 children, he shot all 4 of them and killed all 3 children.
Was this in Albuquerque?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And so that's obviously bad enough and says some things about Albuquerque, but
I don't think it says anything about Albuquerque. It says something about the man who shot those people.
Right.
There's crazy people everywhere.
There is, but there's a recurring theme of stuff like this in Albuquerque, and if we were to dig out the exact stats from the FBI,
you can find the same stuff happening in different
places. Yes,
places.
You can. However, Albuquerque is on official lists as being more violent than most other places. Right. New Mexico is officially at the bottom of just about every good list that's compiled by reputable sources, but that's not what I called about.
I'll take your word for it.
And so anyway, so this happened, and there was an APD response time in the category of 12 to 20 minutes, which was being advertised on local radio stations, that there was this delay, and they were kind of tying that into the possibility of police slowdowns or whatever because of their being investigated by DOJ and not wanting to be involved in stuff like that because they don't want to be in a situation where they have to do any more shooting. Then that was the what was being alluded to, and at the same time that this news was being used by, for instance, Scott Stigler's the Stig Show on one of the local radio stations, KKOB. They a few days after the shooting, for instance, he was talking about for the entire of his program. One day about this shooting, and used the occasion to bring in, you were talking about private security the other day. I agree that there's lots of problems with the public law enforcement, but he brought in the head of an IPS is the name of the company for an hour-long infomercial about how IPS started out in Fort Hills and has clients out there and could help to protect people like this woman and her children that got shot and the children killed. And that, to me, I found that rather tasteless, and there was advertising on some of the competing. It seems
speculative. I mean, a private security company is going to be better than the government, but that doesn't mean they're going to be there the moment a crazy man attacks. I mean, unless you're hiring this IPS for 24/7 personal bodyguard security, they're likely going to be showing up after the incident.
Exactly correct. I agree with that. And that's why it was such a slap in the face to have this hour and a half long infomercial for a private security company using the deaths of these children to help sell this private security service. Now,
that's why you should be listening to Kiva, which is the station that actually airs Free Talk Live in Albuquerque, rather than the other station that you mentioned.
Yeah, true. However, unfortunately, Eddie was running ads and talking about IPS in the same way as the KKOB channel was. He just didn't have an hour-long infomercial, and so there was a double whammy. I was trying to avoid speaking about the Kiva in this conversation for the obvious reasons, but since you brought it up, that's why it hit me so hard, is because I flip back and forth between the two channels, and they're both doing it at the same time, just one more than the other. But that's a side point that's just kind of insulting to my humanity to have that going on. Okay. But where this ties into what you were talking about previously, that is really important, is that years ago, I was curious, DEA, FBI, all these letters that are on these guys' uniform shirts and vehicles when they pull up and are doing their business. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
So I walk up to this black and white SUV one day because I had never seen these 3 letters before, and I walked right up to the guy in the driver's seat and I said, "Who do you guys work for?" Because I was expecting him to say some government agency that I had never heard of, because we had this Homeland Security come out and so on and so on, TSA, so on and so on. It was during that era, and he says IPS, and I'm like, well, what is that? Because I couldn't figure out what part of the government that would be. And it turns out it was a private security company. The point is that the vehicle was completely unmarked other than these letters IPS, which I, as a somewhat smart person, confused took it for granted that it was a government agency because it was an unmarked vehicle, it was black and white, and the only markings were IPS. And after a few minutes of conversation, I figured out that he was actually private rather than government. So that was confusing enough. Now let me fast forward to another APD incident, law enforcement incident. A few years after that, in the same part of town, I park my truck and trailer in a parking lot at a business that I frequent, and I get out of my truck, and then I notice there's a cop is just pulling up behind me in a completely black SUV, like we've all seen, and there's a flashing colored lights in the windshield.
Okay.
And I don't remember.
So he's undercover.
And a guy steps out, and there's a shiny badge on his chest. He's dressed in all black. He's got a sidearm on his hip, and he's walking up to me, and he first thing he says to me is he points to a secluded area in the back, toward the back of the building, and says, move back there.
Oh, that sounds creepy.
It was creepy, and that's what I said to him. What I did is I said, back there, if you want me to move, let's move right over here. I don't want to go back there where I'm out of sight of everybody, whatever it is that you want to do. And after talking to him for a few minutes, I finally figure out, after a bunch of crap, I'm talking, like 3, 4, 5 minutes of conversation. It finally occurs to me, this dude is not government law enforcement. This dude is private security, and to me, it's a complete impersonation of a law enforcement officer.
He was using red and blue flashing lights?
Now, well, that's why I hesitated on that. It was red or it was blue. I think it was red and red, left and right, alternating lights without the blue. So, but
if you're using red and blue, you can be charged with
if you're using red or blue.
Yeah, you're not supposed to. It's a felony.
I've done a Google image search here. I typed in IPS Albuquerque, and a bunch of vehicles came up, and they all clearly state security.
Well, that doesn't mean they don't have an undercover vehicle. I mean, they're not obligated to put their business name on their vehicle. You don't have SPP Radio News written on your car.
Right, but I'm also not providing security services.
David, thanks for the call tonight. I appreciate it. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. I mean, that might be good for branding, but ultimately they don't have to do that. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE, but they shouldn't be legally
using it for security purposes. I believe you do have to have the name on it.
Really? All right. Well, more coming up here in moments. You can share your thoughts on Free Talk Live.
Thanks for calling Soma Biotics. Are you calling for a free trial of our belly flattening breakthrough?
Actually, I already got the free trial. It totally flattened my belly.
Wow, that's great news.
But now I have a problem I never thought I'd have. My belly just keeps getting flatter. I mean, I don't want to look like a runway model, but I don't want to stop taking Soma Biotics either. Because seriously, I've never looked this good.
Well, here's one thing you can do. Only take Soma Biotics every other day. That'll keep up your results without making your belly too flat. And if you ever need to ramp up your belly flattening results again, just go back to taking it every day.
To get your free trial of Soma Biotics, call 1-800-961-5687. You're going to love how you look. And if your belly flattening results are too dramatic, simply reduce use to every other day. But hurry and call now for details while they're still giving it away for free. Call 1-800-961-5687. That's 1-800-961-5687. 1-800-961-5687.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-615-7709.
That's 800-615-7709. 800-615-7709.
Shortly after members of the New York Police Department found a super sharp Buck brand pocket knife earlier this morning, Lieutenant Joseph Mattioli spoke to Onion reporters at the scene of the discovery to update the public on this potentially deadly blade.
At 8:40 a.m., police discovered what seems to be a pretty badass buck knife. Investigators believe it to be basically the deadliest knife ever.
Mattioli confirmed that the pretty cool wood-handled knife has a clean edge and added that the blade must be, quote, at least like 8 inches long.
At this time, we'd like everyone to be aware that there's probably a man out there with an eye patch and scars all over his face that has access to these knives, or maybe even a samurai sword. We urge people to be careful when approaching him because he may flip out and chop both your arms off before you even realize it.
Following the announcement, Mattioli asked people to come forward if they had any information about the owner of the knife or if they just wanted to hold it for a couple of seconds. For more on this story, check this week's Onion Review.
This is the Onion News Network.
Did you know you can watch Free Talk Live during our live show 7 days a week from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern via our studio cams at cam.freetalklive.com? Plus, you can chat with other listeners while you watch, all totally free. Now that our live video stream is hosted by YouTube, our video archives will be online even faster. So be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Listen, watch, and chat all free at cam.freetalklive.com. That's cam.freetalklive.com.
I love My Magic Mud. I drink a lot of coffee. I had stains on my teeth. Then I found My Magic Mud, and I was told it would remove stains. So I paid attention when I brushed the first time. My Magic Mud is black tooth powder, and the difference it made in my teeth in one application was noticeable. With 4, my teeth were as white as you normal folks out there. Please go to mymagicmud.com and buy a jar. There's 150 applications for $25. You can use Bitcoin, mymagicmud.com.
Help get LRN.FM into more ears. Visit promote.lrn.fm for a free bumper sticker, flyers, banners, graphics, and more. Promote.lrn.fm.
It is Free Talk Live. Dial on in toll free to join us on the radio waves. Our number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We've got Skype at Skype username LRN.FM. Speaking of corrupt cops, headline over at copblock.org. Exceptional Officer of the Year in Kern County sentenced to 5 years in prison for dealing meth.
Wonk, wonk.
There's always something to talk about with corrupt cops wherever you are in the United States or around the world. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian,
Johnny Ray,
and Daryl.
Still to come, we got economics in one lesson. We got to dig into Chapter 7, which was the chapter we were supposed to read to review and talk about this week. That's still to come, but we actually started a story earlier this hour, Daryl, that you were sharing from Wired magazine about these new devices. There's the Amazon Echo, and you said Google's is called Alexa. Is that right?
No, Google Home.
Oh,
the Echo uses
the
Alexa.
Echo is the Alexa. Google has a device
called Google Home.
Okay, so little device you place in your home, and you can inquire of certain things.
Correct.
With the Amazon Alexa one, you can order products from Amazon.
So Amazon Echo, and to activate it, you say Alexa.
Right.
So the assistant is called Alexa. The device is called Echo.
Got it. And so similar in a way to like the Cortana or the Siri, but more focused on ordering products.
Different, because Siri and Cortana are not standalone pieces of equipment.
Right.
Siri is an app on your iPhone.
Yeah.
Cortana is the assistant built into Windows 10.
Correct.
And they next get into Cortana.
But the same idea of a computer voice that you talk to and inquire of
correct. And with the Echo and Google Home, there is this, sort of background recording that when it hears one of the wake-up words.
Okay, Google.
Right. So
anyone with us playing in their house right now, if they had a Google Home, that might have just triggered it.
Correct.
Unless it's listening for your voice specifically, in which case it might not have triggered.
I've actually been able to activate other people's Google devices.
Okay.
So I'm just, for fun, going to say, okay, Google, what is the temperature?
Okay.
And, somebody with a Google phone right now, their phone is probably telling them the temperature.
Gotcha.
All because of me. With Cortana, they say it works in Windows 10, but it still mirrors some of your personal information on servers. To customize your experience, Cortana uses a combination of cloud-stored data and on-device data. To see and manage the data stored on your machine, jump into the Start menu, select Cortana, and click the rectangle with a circle inside it to the left sidebar. From there, you can view and delete the entries in Cortana's notebook.
I've got that thing turned off completely, the Cortana.
Your Cortana management controls are really granular, so it's best to follow Microsoft's deeper tutorial on how to manage that personal information.
Does it help?
Skipped a little bit.
You guys both said that you don't use these services. I don't either. The Siri, the Cortana, the Google Home, the Alexa, these various different things. I don't use them. There was apparently one for Samsung that you were playing with before,
right? Galaxy.
You never really took it seriously and kept
right. I just
I
would ask weird, goofy questions just to see if the programmers put in
what they would answers.
So Galaxy, what does the fox say?
And they did have that, right?
It would pull the lyric from the Elvis song,
which is like or something
right.
like
There's like 5 different answers that it goes through, and every now and then, if you ask it, what is the meaning of the life, or what is the meaning of life, the universe, and everything, it will tell you 42. There are some other questions that you can ask.
That's cute. I mean, that's
right.
cute.
So I would just play around with it for the cuteness of it. Like,
but does
Galaxy,
it really...
what color eyes do you have? And it would give a thing of like, I have no body.
Here's what I want to know: if from people that actually use these things, I mean, because it's supposed to be like the next thing, right? I mean, it was always very futuristic in movies and TV shows, and so obviously people want this. But does it actually make you more productive? Is it actually a benefit to your life to have these digital devices answering questions and doing searches for you? Is it faster, to ask the thing for a search as opposed to just typing in what
Johnson
you want?
is the one that you should ask, because he actually uses one of these. He's got a smart TV or something.
He's got an Apple phone, so he probably has the Siri.
Right. So I've been over to his house before, and he'll talk, and the television will change channels, so he doesn't pick up a remote.
Mm-hmm.
I was on a road trip recently to beautiful Connecticut, and the driver was able to pick up her phone and say, "Okay, Google, where is Tig Bitley's restaurant?" And, it was safer.
That makes sense, because then you don't have to take your eyes off the road to type in a location.
Yeah. And, I mean, I think it's obvious that talking is easier than typing.
Faster than typing.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then it's going to go from that to like sub-vocalized. You don't even have to voice what you're saying. You can just sort of say it or think it. Yeah.
Brainwave detection.
Yeah. And so that's where we're going. It's the curse of machinery.
So were you impressed with it? I mean, did you think, wow, this is pretty cool?
Not overly impressed, because that's now something that we expect to see. It's part of our culture.
But not impressive enough to get you to start using whatever feature on your phone.
Possibly. I did notice it at the time, that it was, while it wasn't something that I ever used, I was witnessing a very useful purpose.
Now, I will say that there are times, especially if I'm driving, that I will use the speech to text function of the phone, but I don't use whatever voice assistant there is.
I tried a speech to text thing the other night when I was actually walking the Studio Beast, Jazzy, and I just wanted to try it and see how it would like pick up, because I know that the voice detection has gotten much better over the last decade. I mean, there have been voice detection programs for a long time. Dragon Dictation's probably one of the most noteworthy, and the first big player in that field, and they've had products out for a long time, but it's gotten a lot better. And of course, they learn how you speak, I think, over time as well. So it gets better as you speak to it more, as I understand it. But I find that I got to go back to correct a word or something like that it might have gotten wrong.
Right.
And so that takes time to go back and, especially on a small screen, to try to hit the right spot where you have to go and take the cursor and move it back and then change it. And then, of course, what about punctuation? I mean, how does it Do you have to say comma and period in order for it to know?
Yes.
Okay. See, I don't even know the basics of it.
Yeah,
I feel
so
like
I know that my phone will, if I say comma, it puts in a comma. If I say question mark, it puts in a question mark.
And Ian, you often get emails from a guy who uses an angry guy who
I
uses
don't get those
voice
emails.
detection.
He goes straight to the trash.
And they're unpunctuated and the words are wrong.
So what happens to the recorded audio clips? They say if you feel like revisiting past queries, you can listen to short clips of yourself asking to translate shoehorn into Italian or whatever you should wear, or rather whether you should wear galoshes.
Why you would want to go back and listen to your own queries doesn't really make sense, but you might want to go back and see if, like, your husband or your kids decided to order something on Amazon. I would think that might be a useful reason to go and look at the history.
Alexa users can find a running list of their queries in the Alexa app in Settings and then click History. If a user has several Alexa devices in the arsenal, each one has its own listenable queue of requests. Google users can find everything they've asked for by visiting myactivity.google.com while they're logged into their account. This query museum does not just include voice requests, it also includes any Google searches, YouTube videos, or apps you've launched on Android, among other things.
Woo, all the data.
It's all presented in a neat, searchable, chronological stack.
There was even something a little while back where, and maybe it's the same site, but some Google site would actually show you where you've been with your phone.
If you have location detection turned on.
And most people do.
I do not.
But it'll actually show, so like wherever I would walk the dog, it would show me the different paths that I would have taken.
Yeah. They say there are user benefits to these personal audio catalogs for cases where spoken word answers aren't very useful, recipes, or search results, for example. Amazon and Google provide links to written content in the Alexa and Home apps, respectively.
Let's go to your calls and thoughts. Billy is in North Carolina listening to WWNC in Asheville. Hey, Billy.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, what's on your mind tonight?
So I recently, in school, I have a social justice class, and we were talking about social justice issues, and the issue I chose was I found an interesting article. I was trying to find it. I couldn't find it, but I believe it was by the New York Times. And the impact on youth, the impact on health and wellness of youth of color. And it's been actually proven that youth of color in Canada are more healthy than youth of color in America.
All right, if you want to tell us more, you're welcome to hang on. We can discuss that in hour number 3. I'm not sure why that would be. Maybe you know more. Billy, you can share that coming up here on Free Talk Live. You've said it yourself. We need a healthcare system that focuses on health, not sickness. Health insurance pays for treating sickness but gives you nothing for being healthy. There's a free market healthcare company that gives you freedom from health insurance. They give you a proactive health assessment daily, no charge 24-hour access to doctors. Check them out right now at healthexcellenceselect.com. Any kind of doctor, traditional, integrative, chiropractic, acupuncture, and massage. You'll love the service and price. healthexcellenceselect.com. healthexcellenceselect.com.
If you had one day to teach someone economics, what would you say? We would say that innovation and prosperity requires economic freedom. Visit fee.org/courses and check out Economics in One Day, a crash course in free market economics that you can present to your community. For over 70 years, the Foundation for Economic Education has been a champion of liberty. Start today at no charge by visiting fee.org/courses and learn why economic freedom matters.
This is your Roberts & Roberts Brokerage Daily Precious Metals Update. In early trading Friday, gold is $3 lower at $1,167 per ounce, and silver is 6 cents higher at $17.10 per ounce. Bitcoin is currently trading at $771 US. Consider giving the gift of silver. It never wears out, always has value, and they will always remember who gave it to them. For a variety of options, call Roberts & Roberts Brokerage at 800-874-9760 or visit us online at rrbi.co.
For years, LRN.FM has had a listen line that you can call and listen to LRN.FM anytime. Now we're taking the idea to a new level with the LRN.FM audio on demand line. You can call 641-793-9660 anytime and listen to LRN.FM's live feed, and you can listen to a bunch of our original shows on demand. Long distance fees may apply. Just dial 641-793-9660 and choose from the menu 641-793-9660.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Sunday, December 11th, 2016. Silver is trading at $16.90 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,160 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at 0.8 cents, and the average price of Bitcoin is $773. Antiwar.com reports the Syrian rebels are on the brink of outright military defeat in Aleppo, and despite a good chunk of them being al-Qaeda fighters, the U.S. has branded them so heavily as moderate rebels that the loss is adding to the sense that the rebellion as such is a lost cause. While the Islamic State still has substantial territory, al-Qaeda and friends hold a shrinking amount of territory, and that territory is less and less relevant. It appears the factions are headed for the status of rural-based insurgency, but Saudi Arabia and their allies are expected to keep arming them. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and even Turkey have invested a lot of money in backing regime change in Syria, and even if regime change is out of reach, they don't appear to see an alternative but to double down and keep the fighting going in whatever form they can muster. That's less true of the U.S., however, with President-elect Donald Trump expected to shift away from arming the rebels outright and focus on fighting against the Islamic State, even potentially coordinating with Russia in that fight. The Saudis aren't going to go along with them, however. The Stop Arming Terrorists Act could seem at that further as explicit U.S. policy, formally banning U.S. government funding for al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, or any of their allies. Since the Saudis aren't going to stop such funding, the bill would also aim to limit U.S. government support for them as well. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. UPI reports the Obama administration strongly believes missing American journalist Austin Tice is alive in Syria, according to Senator John Cornyn on Friday. Tice, a freelance journalist, disappeared while reporting in Syria on August 14, 2012, but Senator Cornyn of Texas said presidential envoy for hostage affairs James C. O'Brien has high confidence he is still alive. Tice remains the only American journalist still held captive in Syria, according to Reporters Without Borders, which launched a hashtag Free Austin Tice social media campaign, including an online petition which has gathered over 150,000 signatures. When you hear the word lobbyist, you probably think about greedy corporations, but not all lobbyists are the same. Some are fighting for the freedoms you hold dear. Liberty Lobby LLC is doing just that in New Hampshire. You can help by going to libertylobby.xyz, where your contribution will give us the tools we need to ensure that your voice is heard. The UK Guardian reports Edward Snowden has been the subject of several high-profile appeals this year, calling on Barack Obama to pardon the NSA whistleblower and allow him to return home to the U.S. Writers, intelligence experts, film stars, and tech tycoons have all joined the chorus. Now the most audacious display of support for Snowden is underway. Messages calling for his pardon were beamed on the outside of the wall of the Newseum, the Washington, D.C. institution devoted to freedom of speech and the press that stands less than 2 miles from the White House. The Saturday night event is a guerrilla action carried out without the knowledge or approval of the Newseum itself, though organizers of the stunt from the Pardon Snowden campaign are hoping they will be given a sympathetic reception. The campaign's director told The Guardian before the event, "We sincerely hope that the Newseum supports what we are doing as an affirmation of the significance of a free press." Almost 4,000 messages backing Snowden's decision to expose mass government surveillance of emails and phone calls have been gathered by the campaign from across across the U.S. and around the world. The messages were being projected onto the 74-foot high marble tablet that is attached to the facade of the museum and which has the words of the First Amendment carved into it. Written in 1791 as part of the Bill of Rights, it states, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances." Saturday's action in Washington comes at a critical time for Snowden, who remains in exile in Russia, where he has been granted asylum, having been charged in the U.S. for offenses under the Espionage Act. This has been FPP Radio News. Online at fppradio.com.
The victims of a devastating tornado expressed gratitude that The Onion's three-part series on the disaster was reported with fairness, accuracy, and an unusual degree of sensitivity. Survivors said they were at least thankful for one thing, that The Onion put much more care and insight into their reporting of the tragedy than any competing newspaper, by far. In economic news, a Pulitzer Prize would very much help certain newspapers increase their circulation, resulting in greater ad sales and more revenue to pay their tireless, hardworking reporters, all of whom have families at home to care for. In other headlines, a group known as Americans for Fairness in Awarding Journalism Prizes is asking all Americans to help The Onion receive a Pulitzer Prize. An anonymous man says he will murder 50 innocent people if The Onion is not awarded a Pulitzer. And look at it, it's beautiful. Look, just give us a Pulitzer already, okay? This is humiliating. For more prize-worthy stories and videos, go to theonion.com/review.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. We're launching into the third hour of the program, the live Sunday edition of the show. We were talking about privacy. We can get back into that a little bit here. Also, the book Economics in One Lesson. We've been doing an ongoing book discussion, review, book club thing. We'll continue that coming up here in a little bit. Of course, your calls and thoughts come first. You can join us toll free at 855-450-FREE.
And it's interesting that we're talking about technology, and the chapter of Economics in One Lesson tonight is all about how the myth that technology steals jobs.
Yeah, that's true. We'll get into that. And we didn't plan that, by the way. It's just kind of the way things worked out. But let's go back to Billy. He's calling from Johnny Ray's hometown of Asheville, North Carolina. Billy, you're back on Free Talk Live. Now, you'd called to tell us about a report that you were doing for a class, sounded like a college class. Where you
high school.
Oh, in high school. Are you on? By the way, before you go on, are you on some kind of headset or something? It's a little bit hard to understand you.
I have my radio on. Is that it?
No,
that sounds better to me personally.
Maybe there's a difference. I didn't know if you were like on a speakerphone or something like that.
Yeah, it did sound like you were either on a speakerphone or a ways away from the phone.
Billy, what high school do you go to?
Franklin School of Innovation.
Oh, okay.
You know that one, Johnny Ray?
Franklin High School, I seem to remember. Maybe it wasn't as specialized.
Oh, it's brand new.
Okay.
Yeah, you've been up here for not quite a decade, Johnny, but many years. So, Billy, so you found out what you told us was you found out that youth in Canada are in better health than youth in, and did you say youth of color? Was that the term that you used?
Yes, I actually found the article that I used, and I made it into a tiny URL for you guys. It's tinyurl.com/STLAVL.
Okay, and so what you're saying is that youth of color in the United States are not as healthy as those of their counterparts in Canada.
Yes, I'm looking at the article right now.
Now, why do you think? What is the the speculation as to why that is?
Well, what the article actually says is the stereotyping is actually causing stress to youth of color.
Stereotyping is causing stress. Are you saying that people in Canada are less likely to stereotype people based on the color of their skin?
Yes, I'm looking at an article, and actually where is it?
I have no idea.
Given that racial bias begins in preschool and it's tougher for the people of color to find a therapist, improving the health of youth of color won't be easy.
Okay. So you're saying that people in the United States in preschool are, and he's gone. I was trying to understand, where that was, coming from.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
I don't see any reason why there would be more or less prejudice or stereotyping in Canada versus the United States. I can't see that there's that big of a difference between the cultures in the two different places.
I think you're probably right about that. I can envision it. I can imagine it, but I suspect the reality is that Canada is every bit as racist as the U.S. is.
I would think so. I mean, you might be able to buy the claim that there are more racists in the South, but I don't know if there's any truth to that statement.
I've actually, from my experience, it seems that there's more racist people in the North.
Now, how do you know, from your experience, because you're not a black guy, so when you say your experience, you just mean people saying things in your presence to give you an indicator?
I hear more racist statements from people up north, not in New Hampshire, but when I lived in Pennsylvania, I would hear, white people drop the N-word to describe black people all the time.
Yeah, my feeling was that because I grew up with in the South with more black people, I think. Certainly more than is in New Hampshire.
Right.
I mean, it's night and day, as it were. That Yankees are they're not as comfortable around black people, and black people are more alien to them, and so they don't like what they don't know and don't understand, and they're hostile and defensive.
There does seem to be a lot more xenophobia in New England than I've seen elsewhere. And when I say xenophobia, I don't mean just, people that have darker skin. There are people in New Hampshire that they don't like anybody that's not from New Hampshire. There are people in Vermont that don't like anybody that's not from Vermont. That there's a term
Flatlanders.
Right. I've only ever heard that term from someone that lived in Vermont that was working in New Hampshire, and he could not define what exactly he meant other
Someone
than
not from around
people
here.
not from around here.
Right.
And I was like, but I used to live in the Appalachian mountain, like the foothills of the Appalachians. It wasn't flat. And he was like, well, you're not from these mountains.
Right. Yeah. Doesn't the Appalachian Trail end in New Hampshire? Or
It
Maine
ends
or
in
something?
Maine.
Yeah. So I've heard that too. There was a guy in Keene who was like the one black guy who was in the high school at one point. I knew him when he was in his 20s, but I was just kind of asking him, what was it like growing up in a school where you were the only, the kind of the token black
guy.
And he said it was, wasn't necessarily an easy thing, and the reason why he gave for people's behavior was these people had never seen a black person except for on television. Like that's how not diverse it can be up here. And I think that's one of the weak parts of New Hampshire is its lack of diversity.
Yeah, where my great-grandmother used to live in Birmingham, her and her neighbor across the alleyway were the only two white people in the entire neighborhood.
Yeah, he said it wasn't because he said a lot of it wasn't because people were mean or racist. It was just because he looked different. That's all.
Right.
Just because they had not grown up with that, they had not grown up around black people, and that made for some uncomfortable situations, I guess. But he's still living here, so it didn't drive him away. I did read once upon a time, and it's been several years since I saw this, a letter to the editor of the local newspaper written by a black woman who was actually from my hometown of Sarasota, Florida. And she had written a letter to the editor explaining why she was no longer going to live in Keene, why she was going to move back down south. And she said it was because she had experienced racism on the streets of Keene. So, even though maybe we haven't experienced it, apparently it is out there and can be uncomfortable for some folks. Now, I did see an article recently about they showed maps of the United States, and I don't remember what the time frames were. I think it was over a couple of decades, but it was looking at the areas of the country that are experiencing the most increases in diversity. And it actually showed the New England area, northern New England, as areas that were experiencing increases big increases in diversity, that we'd started from not much and had gotten a decent little spike. It's still not much when you look at all the the numbers,
right.
But some areas are not increasing in diversity, but many areas of the United States are, in northern New England, including New Hampshire, was one of them. So maybe that's starting to change. I sure hope it does, because that's what people need. Is they need to be around people who are different, to really that look different, to really understand that underneath we're all the same, that we're all just people. And while our life circumstances may be somewhat different and how we were raised, might be different, ultimately all humans are looking for very similar things. They're looking for people to love and to feel loved and accepted, and to make something of their life and have an impact and help other people. I mean, there's a universality there that I think that it's hard to distinguish that from afar. You have to get to know people.
Certainly. And there's just one more thing to mention real quick on this article about the privacy. They say there is some semi-good news if you have a bit of control over whether audio clips are saved or recorded at all.
This is about those devices, the in-home devices.
They say there are two big caveats, though. Disabling recording is only an option on Google Home, but when you do that, the device no longer works. And while you can delete your logs of audio clips on both Alexa and Google Home, it's unclear whether the data survives on a server after you delete it from the queue in your account.
Well, I can tell you one thing. When you delete your Facebook account, all the data stays right there on their servers.
Yep.
So, there's a good chance that they're keeping that history, whether you know it or
Probably.
not. We'll continue here. 855 450 free. We'll get into economics in one lesson coming up on Free Talk Live. You can join us.
Warning. If you're drowning in debt you can't afford, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to pay it all back, because you don't. What the credit card companies don't want you to know is that there's actually a way to get debt-free without paying off your entire debt or going bankrupt. If you have $5,000 or more in credit card debt, you now have the right to settle that debt for a fraction of what you owe. For free information, call Credit Associates now. 1-800-959-5928. We'll even show you how much money you could save. If you can't afford to pay off all your debt, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to. Call Credit Associates now for free information on how to get debt-free faster than you ever thought possible without debt consolidation or bankruptcy. We depend on your success and offer a guarantee, so there's no risk. For free information, call now. 1-800-959-5928. That's 1-800-959-5928. 1-800-959-5928.
Winter has just begun, and are you already tired of being cold? How would you like to never be cold again? This is Dale with Fortress Clothing, and I'm here to tell you, you will never be cold again with Fortress. If you're tired of freezing your butt off, elk hunting, sitting in a tree stand deer hunting, winter camping, fishing, ice fishing, no longer fear the cold. If you snowmobile, ski, snowboard, get Fortress. Sledding with the kids, shoveling the walks, shopping, or if you or your spouse get cold feet at home, get Fortress. If you're stuck outside working in the cold or find yourself in an emergency situation, get our winter bug out bag and you will never be cold again. Fortress is the answer, so quit complaining and go to fortressclothing.com. It's a mid-layer garment that goes with anything you want to wear. Enter coupon code RADIO and get 20% off any item. Go now while we still have inventory. fortressclothing.com.
Since time began, tyrants have taken aim at personal liberties. Now there's a movie that aims back.
The government has no more right to tell us what to put in our bodies than they have to take our guns or tell us what books we can read.
6 drug police were eaten by bears while raiding a marijuana farm.
On your knees, you dirty hippie! Jesus. On your knees! What's the problem, officer?
Today, many cops who enforce pot laws do so only because it provides them with cushy jobs, good benefits, and a chance to push people around.
I was an undercover narcotics officer. The drug war is nothing but a farce.
The Second Amendment says you gotta keep you and your gat intact.
Guns and Weed, The Road to Freedom. A film by Michael W. Dean and Nima Vadadi.
DVD available now at gunsandweed.com or on Amazon. That's gunsandweed.com. Makes the perfect gift. Remember, that's gunsandweed.com.
The three most important things you can do for Free Talk Live are: 1. Share one episode a week on Facebook or in some other social networking site. 2. Buy the things you buy online through shop.freetalklive.com. 3. Give $5 a month to the AMP program. You likely buy all kinds of things online. Amazon is the largest online retailer. You can get what you need at the same prices with free Super Saver shipping by going to shop.freetalklive.com. Please do your online shopping at shop.freetalklive.com.
Ross Ulbricht was convicted in early 2015 of running the infamous Silk Road Underground Market. The Silk Road was a gift to humanity and helped reduce the harms brought on by drug prohibition. For this good deed, Ross has been sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole. Now, an appeal is Ross's only chance, and he needs your support. Please visit freeross.org, where you can contribute via various methods, including Bitcoin. Visit freeross.org. That's freeross.org.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
It is Free Talk Live, the live Sunday edition of the program. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Tipsy Elves. Johnny Ray, did you get your sweater yet?
I sure did.
You did. Okay, good. Because you are one of the newest hosts to receive a sweater from Tipsy Elves. They have the ugliest Christmas sweaters you'll probably ever see, and that's kind of their thing, is ugly Christmas sweaters. You wear this to any Christmas party or anywhere that you go. People will likely have something to say about it, and some of them are pretty outrageous, offensive. Some of them are just kind of cute. You can go and check out their full selection, including their all-new 2016 sweaters that you won't find anywhere else, over at tipsyelves.com. And Free Talk Live listeners are supposed to get 20% off, but apparently something is broken with our discount code, and we only discovered this right at the end of the week, so the business working week. Apparently the company that is interfacing between us and Tipsy Elves, they've got like a media buyer. Somebody dropped the ball, or something, some switch didn't get flipped somewhere. So unfortunately, that code FTL last time we checked was not working. What we're recommending that you do is load up your cart with the stuff you want, whether it's the awesome, ridiculous Christmas sweaters they have, or the new interactive sweaters, the Christmas suits for men. For women, they've got holiday leggings, sweater dresses, and pajamas. Plus, if you're into college sports, they've got a whole collegiate line as well over at tipsyelves.com. You're supposed to get 20% off site-wide because you're a Free Talk Live listener, and we're going to get this fixed this week, hopefully Monday, but until then, you can throw some stuff in your cart and then maybe send an email to customer service and say, hey, the code that you're supposed to be using, FTL, like Free Talk Live, is not, or at least it wasn't working on Friday. If it's all of a sudden started working, please let us know. So go on to tipsyelves.com and then let the customer service folks know that you need to get that 20% discount with code FTL. Otherwise, we'll see if we can hammer the problem out on Monday. And so apologies from us to you for the inconvenience this may have caused in your holiday ordering season here. So once again, tipsyelves.com. Go shop through their stuff. They got a bunch of cool, fun, outrageous gifts and sweaters. They're very, very, very cool. So tipsyelves.com, and eventually the code FTL will start working. So we've been talking about privacy a lot here tonight, and also technology as well, which does, as you pointed out, Daryl, dovetail well into this chapter of Economics in One Lesson. Chapter 7 is the chapter that we had to read on, was our reading assignment for the week. It was actually a pretty decently long chapter. It looks like about 12 pages in length here, and so I was able to successfully get through it. And essentially it's about the myth that automation, machines, robots, that these technological innovations that have helped make manufacturing more efficient and bring costs down on manufacturing various different products, the myth that is hurting people because, well, if a machine comes in, to anybody who's observing that situation, they will see that jobs are lost. That, like, if some automation system comes into a manufacturing line, the people who were on that line before are now being replaced by a machine.
Well, I'll give you a really good example of something that's happening right now in places like Seattle, to where you've got fast food restaurants that are now using self-serve kiosk, to where you type the order in yourself on a little tablet sort of device.
Right. So
instead of paying somebody like
to get the order
$12 an hour to punch the order into a computer, and in another couple of years it's going to be $15 an hour.
Right.
Because hashtag fight for 15, so that everybody that has a job makes a living wage, but a bunch of people wind up getting laid off. But that's the whole seen versus the unseen, and the people fighting for 15 don't care about the unseen. They just want a bigger paycheck.
Right. So that's where the chapter starts, is describing how this myth has been pretty prevalent for a long time. I mean, this book was written, was the 40s, Johnny Ray?
Yeah, 1946 it was published.
And so Henry Hazlitt is the author. By the way, the book is free. It's called Economics in One Lesson. You can download it in a PDF form. Just ask your Google Home. And
okay, Google.
Or you can
download Economics in One Lesson.
Right.
And if you like, if you want a physical copy, you can get a beautiful copy at store.fee.org.
Or I'm
also
sure through
the
Amazon.
Mises Institute.
I bet you Amazon's got it too, in which case you can go to shop.freetalklive.com and order it. I doubt if you're ordering through your Amazon at home thing or Alexa thing.
Right, I was going to ask if that works, if you could wind up setting the default.
I doubt it because the Free Talk Live code is in the URL that initially loads when you first go to the website through shop.freetalklive.com,
right.
and then they store it in a cookie on your computer. I've not heard of any way to do that with the Alexa thing, so I wouldn't presume that would work.
I remember hearing now Brian Sovereign, the former Free Talk Live host of Sovereign Tech, saying that he believes that one of the reasons that Amazon is pushing so heavy for people to get the Alexa device or the Echo device
is to cut
out the affiliate peoples.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. So anyway, the idea being that for forever people have been complaining about new technology coming in and taking our jobs. And that's what this book gets into detail.
And not always new technology, but also foreign sources of labor or foreign sources of whatever.
Not addressed in this chapter, but they may be. I mean, that may be yet to come. I've never read the book before.
The only reason that I mention that is that's basically the entire subject of the Candlemakers petition by Frederick Bastiat. If you're not familiar with Bastiat, he wrote The Law, which is sort of like one of the treatises on how government should work. And he made this petition to the French Parliament where they were going off on, we have to protect French employers from these foreign sources of labor and production. And so he wrote this thing up of, there's this free source of light and it's foreign to France and we have to protect the candle makers. And at the end, you realize he's talking about the sun. By forcing people to put shutters on their windows, that then makes sure that candle makers stay in business because we have to protect the people that are working.
So what?
I was gonna say, for me, this chapter regarding machinery, it boils down to basically what we shouldn't lose focus of what we want out of the future, which is we don't want to work, we don't want to have to toil and labor,
and backbreaking kind of labor too, right?
You took the words right out of Hazlitt's mouth. Yeah. We don't want to have to work to meet our basic needs. We want to have those taken care of, and then we can spend our time on higher ends like poetry or code writing or whatever Daryl does with his free time. We don't want to work, but people are their imaginations are so poor that they can't imagine a world like that, and that's really the end we're looking for. And that's Hazlitt often talks about trying to imagine the economy as as production and things rather than looking at what they call the monetary veil and letting that confuse you.
Let's dig in deeper to this here in moments. Our toll-free number, if you want to join us about economics in one lesson and the sort of the myth around machinery taking jobs, 855-450-FREE.
Attention citizens. This man has received national attention for accurately predicting every major financial trend, including the market crash of 2008. His name is Harry Dent, and in his newly released book, he is making even bigger and bolder predictions that have the potential to devastate the world economy and your personal wealth. You can get a free copy of Harry Dent's bestseller, The Sale of a Lifetime, containing never-before published information by simply visiting www.saleofalifetime.com/free book. Again, that's saleofalifetime.com/free book.
Did you know your car can be hacked just like your computer or phone? Hackers can hijack the signal of your own key fob to burglarize your vehicle in seconds. The Black Hole Faraday key fob bag is a signal impenetrable shield that stops these hacks in their tracks. Did you know your car can be one of your most valuable assets? Go to hackersproofbag.com. That's hackproofbag.com and use promo code radio to get 20% off. Or call 805-222-4584. That's 805-222-4584. Protect one of your most valuable assets.
A congressman recently revealed that legislation totaling 2,900 pages and involving more than $1 trillion was available to members of Congress for less than 48 hours to study and consider. That's over 60 pages of legislation per hour. Do you think anyone read the entire bill? I'm Jim Babka with DownsizeDC.org. Consider a proposal buried in a 3,200-page, $388 billion bill, which would have empowered committee chairmen or their agents to examine Americans' tax returns. When this horrible provision came to light, no one claimed to know how it got into the bill. One congressman questioned said, "I didn't write it, I didn't approve it, I wasn't even consulted." If your attorney represented you this way, he might be disbarred. But this is how Congress represents you every day. That's why DownsizeDC.org has created the Read the Bills Act. You can force Congress to read their bills before they pass them at DownsizeDC.org.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com. You can get emailed announcements and participate in contests via our email updates list. Plus, we have a Twitter account that you can follow and a Facebook page where you can become a fan. So visit news.freetalklive.com to get news about Free Talk Live as soon as it's announced and the way you want it delivered at news.freetalklive.com. That's news.freetalklive.com. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit shiresociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, add yourself to the Shire map at shiresociety.com. That's shiresociety.com.
You can sign up to receive the latest about the Liberty Radio Network via our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. That's updates.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live, and you may join us here. Toll-free number 855-450-FREE. We're talking economics in one lesson, the book by Henry Hazlitt. And we've been going through chapter by chapter. We're up through, in my book, it's page 60 out of about 200 1,000-page book, so we got a ways to go. But we're talking a lot about the idea of the seen and the unseen. That's sort of the recurring theme in this book, where he talks about obvious situations where, some new machine comes into a shop. The people who used to work that part of the line get replaced by this machine. Jobs have been lost. And so most people don't think beyond the obvious stuff that's sort of in your face about technological improvements when they're thinking about the economy, and they don't think about the unseen. And we're going to get deeper into that coming up here. You can share your thoughts with us. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. HostGator.com/FTL is where you want to go to get 50% off of web hosting. We're talking about 99.99% uptime rating, 24/7 over the phone, live chat, tech support, simple one-click, easy installation for WordPress, and a very intuitive and user-friendly control panel that puts the power of creation into your hands. It's HostGator. They're one of the top hosting companies out there, and as a Free Talk Live listener, you get 50% off by using this URL to go and sign up. HostGator.com/FTL. That's HostGator.com/FTL, like Free Talk Live, to get 50% off for the entirety of your initial terms. If you sign up for a month, you get a discount for a month. If you sign up for 3 years, you get the discount for 3 years. So you decide, and whether you need a brand new website or you want to move your existing site, HostGator can help you. Go to HostGator.com/FTL. As we continue to discuss economics in one lesson here with me, Ian,
Johnny Ray,
and Daryl.
So this chapter is all about mechanization. It was written in the 1940s, and he goes back as far as the 1800s to talk about different technologies and how all along the way there have been these groups of people, technocrats apparently they were called at one point. I would call them technophobes because these are people who believe somehow that we would be better off without technology, as though if a bunch of men are digging a ditch, having 100 men dig a ditch would somehow be better than a couple of earth movers coming in there and actually just doing the work easily, quickly, having it done in a fraction of the time without anybody getting hurt, pulling muscles or whatever from actually having to do that labor. That we're supposed to believe that having the earth mover has been a detriment to society and the economy. That's kind of one example of mechanization.
The people that would oppose technology, Luddites.
Correct. Well, or technocrats is one of the terms that they use here. Apparently, there was actually a movement, and they used that term to describe themselves. They've died out since then, but they've taken form in other ways, because the objection still exists today, and we're going to hear more of it as robots become more and more plentiful.
Right. And whenever a new transformative technology comes out, a new crop of anti-tech people come out to complain about it.
Right. Now, I hear people, throw around the word Luddite, so I actually looked up the definition, and apparently a Luddite was a member of any of the bands of English workers who destroyed machinery, especially in cotton and wood mills that they believed were threatening their jobs between 1811 and 1816.
Mm-hmm. Right, which is the examples that Hazlitt uses. And in my copy of Economics in One Lesson in this chapter, he talks about the textile industry in the UK, or not the UK, but Britain or England or whatever, in the 17th century. But what happened in that case was that though initially there was a reallocation of labor, and as the equipment came in that increased their productivity, it hurt some people. And Hazlitt goes to great pains in this chapter to say we cannot forget that
somebody lost a job.
Technological progress sometimes hurts people in the long run, even because maybe they've spent their whole life learning a skill that has now become completely useless to them.
Right.
And so for the remaining years of their life, basically, where before they were a skilled worker, now they're an unskilled worker.
And they're not getting paid as much.
Yeah. But in the case of the textiles, the introduction of the machinery made the garments more affordable, so more people started buying them. So in the course of 100 years, the employment went up about 4,000% in that industry.
So he cites actual numbers from this industry that shows that over time the technological advancements, rather than killing jobs, actually ended up creating more of them.
Yeah, and along with just raising everybody's well-being by giving them cheap coats.
Well, right, because even if not. It's probably true that in some places that the jobs didn't increase in some industries, for instance, where machinery just replaced people and just made the manufacturing more efficient. But then you still get the price reduction in those products, which means that people who would have paid in the coats, for instance, $100 for a coat now pay $50 for a coat, which means they have $50 more in their pocket that they can then use on other things like feeding their family or paying the bills.
Well, not to mention you would also then create different jobs of people that need to know how to work on the machines.
Correct, although probably not as many. I mean, if you're thinking about like an earth mover, for instance, there's somebody who knows how to maintain that machine, but it's probably not more than one person, whereas you might be able to replace a crew of 10 laborers or something with that machine.
You're going to need
200 shovel tenders.
Right, and I'm not trying to say that for each machine you need one person to stand there to know how to work the machine. Mm-hmm. But in some cases you do. In some cases you might need 5 people that are able to fix or repair whatever. I remember when I worked for the airline, typically whenever one of the planes would have a mechanical error, they would send out a crew of either 3 or 4 mechanics to work on the thing. Right. So, yeah, you are going to need more than one person to be able to know how to fix the thing.
Well, right, and you also have people who need to build the machine in the first place, the people
Correct.
who are shipping the machine, the people who are selling the machine, so the salesmen. So there are other jobs that, again, aren't as obvious as just the repairman who comes in. So to someone, again, that's the seen versus the unseen. To someone who's in the factory or on the work crew or whatever, who just saw 15 laborers get replaced by an earth mover, that's what they might see, and they might see one person repairing it, but they don't see the salesman,
Right.
they don't see the truckers, they don't see the manufacturing
Right,
process.
they don't see the person that has to operate said piece of equipment,
and they don't necessarily they're just running they're just doing a job. They don't know at the higher level that the business has doubled their number of jobs because now they're twice as efficient because of this new machinery. So that now they can go to 2 times as many jobs per year than what they used to do previously, and bring more money in and give people raises as a result of that.
Hazlitt uses a lot of ad absurdum or ad infinitum arguments in this book, in this chapter, and it reminds me of one I heard recently on the same topic about unemployment. If you want to solve the unemployment problem in our country, simply ban the use of the internal combustion engine, and everyone will be farming their land everyone will become subsistence farmers because food can't be trucked around, and we'll all be grubbing dirt. Well, we'll all be working. We'll be working all day long. Yeah. We'll have jobs. We'll be working all the time. We'll never stop.
Well, he made a really interesting point in that part of the chapter here, because he pointed out that because of automation, specifically when it comes to farming, that's probably the reason why a lot of people are alive. Because if it weren't for automation, then the amount of crops that you can harvest per square foot or whatever in an economic fashion wouldn't be possible,
right,
compared to what used to be in the past. And so not as many people would be able to eat if it weren't for these automation systems. So basically, without tractors and things like that, tilling land and all these machines that have taken over farming, without that, the world's population would not be what it is. You and I may not actually be, we may not have survived if it weren't for this technology. So the toll-free number here, 855-450-FREE. You can share your thoughts with us. Economics in One Lesson. The book club continues. It's Free Talk Live.
Today, how to incorporate your business in just 10 minutes so you won't lose everything if you get sued. Step 1, stop putting it off. If you're not incorporated and someone sues your business tomorrow, it's not just your business at risk. You can lose everything: your home, your car, even your life savings. Step 2, call the following number for a free 10-minute incorporation guide from Incorporate.com. 1-800-945-1063. They don't provide legal or financial advice. They just make incorporating quick and easy. So you can incorporate or form an LLC in just 10 minutes. That number again is 1-800-945-1063. Step 3, congratulate yourself. By taking just 10 minutes to incorporate your business or form an LLC, you protected your home, your car, and your life savings. And that is how you incorporate your business in just 10 minutes. But hurry while they're still giving away these 10-minute incorporation guides for free. Call 1-800-945-1063. That's 1-800-945-1063.
Back pain doesn't take vacations. It never celebrates holidays. It's on the job 24/7 to keep your life exactly where it is, in limbo. But it doesn't have to be that way, because Laser Spine Institute can help you take back your life from chronic neck and back pain. With a less than 1-inch incision, our minimally invasive procedures have provided relief to over 60,000 patients with a 97% patient satisfaction rate. So get ready to stand tall and live the life you've imagined for yourself without pain. Are you or a loved one suffering from a bulging disc, herniated disc, spinal stenosis, pinched nerve, or degenerative disc disease? Call our spine care consultants now at
855-519-BACK.
For a no-cost MRI review and to learn more. It's time to say goodbye to chronic neck and back pain.
Call 855-519-BACK now to see if laser spine surgery is right for you. That's 855-519-BACK.
What have you got to lose? Laser Spine Institute, the leader in minimally invasive spine surgery.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
Here's a chance to do a little activism while you're cruising Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. Between the LOL cats, the recipes, the hot girls, and the inspirational sunrise memes, Free Talk Live's posts pass by your newsfeed. Like them, comment. It gives us more exposure. If you don't see our posts, click like at facebook.freetalklive.com and then hover over it to click Get Notifications. It's an easy way to spread the ideas of liberty a bit further. I know you're busy, but you can spare that 1/10 of a calorie it takes to click on something. Facebook.freetalklive.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
What's up next? Visit the Liberty Radio Network program guide to find out at shows.lrn.fm. That's shows.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. Moments remain. Enough time here if you want to join us. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We do have Skype as well, and the Skype username is LRN.FM. With you tonight, Ian here.
Johnny Ray.
And Daryl.
Don't forget to check out more of Daryl on his website, libertylobby.xyz. That is a website most people may not have heard of .xyz.
Can also go to libertylobby.info. I just bought that a few days ago.
Okay, cool. I want to start giving that one out just because maybe it'll resonate a little bit better. Libertylobby.info. So it's working now.
Yes.
Okay, good.
I actually bought it on Black Friday because the registrar that I use was having a really good deal.
Was it Namecheap?
Yes.
All right. And they take Bitcoin over there, by the way.
Yes, they do.
So libertylobby.info is your new lobbyist website to support the ideas of liberty in the political scene in New Hampshire, specifically up at the State House with the state representatives here. You've been talking to them over the years as just Daryl Perry, but now you're going to be Daryl W. Perry, the liberty lobbyist.
Yes.
And you'll have to wear an orange badge, which you have, and you'll be starting that in earnest coming up in early 2017 once they start really having their regular sessions.
Text of legislation should be coming out in the next week or so.
You're going to be busy reading.
Which means I will be very busy reading legislation and reviewing said legislation, figure out if it's pro-liberty, anti-liberty, trying to get in touch with sponsors of bills to give my input pre-hearing. Because, that's one of the things that, these people need to hear from you before the hearing so that they can then, figure out if there's a problem with the bill or not.
And so you're going to help them, maybe fix some problems, make some suggestions. You'll go and you'll testify on many of these bills in front of the State House committees.
In favor of pro-liberty legislation and against anti-liberty legislation.
Yep, and you'll be blogging about it at libertylobby.info, and I'm sure you'll be cross-posting over to Free Keene, hopefully, as well. Just to kind of keep people in the loop as to what's going on up here. So if you're excited about the liberty movement in New Hampshire, Daryl is one of the ways that you can help fund the activism here. You're doing a fundraiser over there right now. You're looking to hit $5,000 per year.
Yes.
That is a very attainable goal, and you've had several people help out. You're still working on that, though.
Yes.
Where are you at right now?
I'm at... And I've broken it down as far as my bookkeeping is going. I've broken it down to a monthly goal of just over $416. I'm at 63% of that monthly goal.
All right.
And once I add in the one-time donations, I believe I'm at about 80% of the yearly goal.
So you're averaging out the one-times over the full year.
Yes.
Gotcha. So if you want to help them out, whether it's a one-time donation or a monthly, head on over to libertylobby.info to learn more. And let's go to your calls and thoughts here. David in San Francisco, listening online. Go ahead, David.
Oh, yeah. You know what I was spurred to call by was you were kind of leading to a planned economy is what the description sounded like. And it was... I don't know.
No, I was not advocating for a planned economy. Not at all.
Well, I will tell you that I think when I think of technology and I think of economies, sometimes I think of them in rudimentary, simplistic ways that kind of could lend somebody to think that communism is a good idea, even though I don't feel that way. I think of economies as
communism because if in the 1920s they were, business, Wall Street and London and the economic world was run by what were called efficiency experts. And in fact, the Nazis kind of came to power by being such pure efficiency types. And even in their sciences, they had the technocracy, the idea that technology should supersede ego, and technocracy should, technology should supersede the mindset. And we should kind of like a robot economy that is so planned. I mean, these were the business people. They came up with the assembly lines, and they actually killed a lot of people by speeding up assembly lines and demanding that air quality standards be reduced. Speed up that line, you're going to create more dust, you're going to choke your own employees. So the idea that efficiency experts actually ended up killing people, and when you start looking at the history of efficiency experts, by World War II, they were laughed out of society. And so it's kind of interesting to hear you talking about similar, it's as if it's a revival of efficiency experts.
Well, I would have to assume that if you have a warehouse, if you have a factory full of robots and no people, then it's going to be a safer factory for people.
Yeah, that's true. Nobody's going to get an arm caught in a machine.
Who buys your product?
The people who are doing other jobs now.
Yeah, and if robots do everything, then should we just hand out money so people can buy stuff, or do we have to kill everybody that doesn't have a job?
You don't have to. You don't have to do anything. People work because they want to, And if the food is being provided at 1/20th the price that we're paying now, you don't have to devote as much of your labor and effort towards buying food and clothing. The stuff is basically free. That people will give it away in order to sell you their poetry.
Right. It's kind of like, they came up with this issue. Actually, it was called bread and circuses back in ancient Rome. If I remember right, it was during Augustus Caesar. And they intentionally came up with cheap food, below the cost of manufacture. So you basically cheated the farmers out of the food, and then you kept the price of food so low that people would have their bellies full, and the political spectacle. This was the combination of the Roman circus and cheap quality food.
Yeah,
and then they started making bleached flour so that people would be sluggish in the mind. They'd have their belly full, but they'd be sluggish in their mind all the time, and they wouldn't be able to respond to the outrages of the politicians.
Well, I don't know how long that lasted, because ultimately, if you're selling food below cost, you're going to go out of business. You can't. That's not a sustainable activity.
You've heard of William Jennings Bryan?
Uh-huh.
He look him up, because he was specifically talking about. I think he started down in Texas in the 80s, somewhere around in there, 60s maybe even. And Texans were growing food like crazy, and they send it up to Kansas City, and the Chicago Board of Trade and the Board of Trades would cheat them out of their loads. And so they'd go home starving. That's why Texas got depleted so fast, and they ruined their topsoil growing this food, and then all of a sudden they got cheated in the commodity prices. And it's been like that for years, decades. I bet the price of wheat right now is still $6 a bushel, and it's been $6 a bushel since I was a kid, and that was 50, 60 years ago. So, they $3 a bushel for corn, soybeans, they're probably a little more because they can make stuff, plastic out of them, and junk. But the idea that food is artificially and has been artificially kept low since before the Great Depression. There are places like Iowa that used to be vastly prosperous, but when the commodity prices came in, the Chicago Board of Trade, boy, they looted Iowa and Illinois and, all of the Great Plains states that had 8 feet of topsoil. They forced them into, this is where the efficiency experts are even worse. You got like Monsanto, and they're saying you can get a greater yield, you can get so many gallons out of a cow, you can get. Now, you think about a cow that's got an udder that's blowed up to bursting 5 gallons a day. You basically ruin their udders, right? You basically ruin the physical structure of an animal. They can hardly stand after a point because they've created these robot, they've genetically modified the animals into overproducing milk, and they leach all of the calcium out of their bones and sell you milk that's hazardous to your health. And
I've never heard of milk that's hazardous to people's health, but I would presume that if people were aware of cows being mistreated, they probably would not want to buy milk from those various different manufacturers. We've seen a very popular rise in free-range chickens becoming a big deal. Thanks, David, for your call tonight. I'm sure that some people have similar concerns, but let's let the market decide.
Right,
things.
And most of what he was mentioning about the price of wheat being suppressed, that's not the market that's doing that. That's the federal government that is suppressing the price of wheat.
Yeah, I think the efficiency experts were part of Roosevelt and the New Deal, and people slaughtering their pigs and incinerating them to keep them off the market, to keep the price of pork high.
We don't have any more time to discuss it tonight, but you can join us tomorrow online in the meantime over at freetalklive.com.
Are you a sneezer? If you're not, can you get close to one? I don't literally mean someone sneezing. Sneezer, as defined by marketing guru Seth Godin, is an opinion leader. When a sneezer mentions something, other people catch what Godin calls the idea virus. Seth Godin says some people are more likely to tell their friends about a great new idea. So identifying and courting sneezers is a key success factor for idea merchants. His book, Unleashing the Idea Virus, is the most downloaded ebook in history, and you can download the whole book free. That's how he's making his idea contagious. Click tips, tricks, and other stuff to help you cut through the clutter at www.survivalspeech.com.